A little earlier, I was wondering why we hadn't heard anything from Port Aransas. I'm told that we have a phone call set up now and that we have Constable Bobby Sherwood on the line. Can you hear us, sir?
Well, Lee,
we do apologize. It's Priscilla Torres who's joining us live.
Yeah, Lee and Steph, I've got Bobby Sherwood on the phone. Earlier, we tried to go out to Port Aransas, and Bobby, I have him on the phone, and he just said, do not come out here. Don't risk it. So, Bobby, just double checking that we have you on the phone, sir.
Yes, I'm still here.
Tell the people that are watching right now what you've experienced throughout the day and what you're experiencing now.
Well, it started out, we had a little bit of rain and some, heavy winds, 35. But blowing about 100 out there now and blowing the rain sideways. It's been the worst part of the 45 minutes.
Earlier, you were telling me that you're staying almost right in the center of Port Aransas. Can you tell us a little bit about where?
I'm staying at a house about a block away from my office, and so far we've done pretty good. It's shaking pretty good, but I think that the eye is just about past us, and we're hoping the wind will slow down after that.
And since you just mentioned it, that's what I wanted to ask you. How did it feel when what you believe was the eye? What did you hear? I'm not sure if you were able to see anything outside. Tell us about that.
Well, the wind picked up a lot, and it's blowing the rain sideways, and you can't see very far out the window of anything because there's so much rain blowing by. It's just awful.
It sounds like we've got some sirens going off behind us, or behind.
That was a telephone.
Okay. For people, what's it been like just earlier today?
It wasn't too bad. It was pretty calm. We was out driving around about 5 or 5:30, looking at to see who was here and who had left. There's about probably 30 people from Port Aransas I know that are still here, and I've been in contact with them for off and on all day long.
So for those people who may have been a part of that evacuation yesterday, who are wondering what it looks like right now or what to expect when they come home, what would you tell them?
Well, I expect to be a lot of damage here because of the wind speeds and just the things I can see here from the house. But we intend to, as soon as this thing lays down tonight, get out in the morning and start assessing damage and then calling in and letting people know.
And Bobby, I asked you before we started this interview, but I'd like for you to tell the people what made you decide to stay behind?
Well, this is what they pay me to do. I mean, I'm the constable here, and they pay me to protect the property of these people at Port Aransas. And I felt like I was in a safe place, and I still feel that way. But I'd sure like to see it get over with.
And for anyone like myself, like I said earlier, we were almost going to go out to Port Aransas and meet up with you. What would you tell other people who are considering maybe even going early tomorrow?
It probably won't be a good idea. I imagine there's going to be some flooding on the roads, the island roads. The ferries are shut down, and it's probably a while till they get running again. There's no reason to right now till we assess the damage. Because there's no power. We've been without power since about 4:30, and with the way the wind's blowing, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of power lines down, things like that.
And Bobby, the National Hurricane Center issued its first ever public storm surge warning. What's the storm surge been like in your area?
Well, when we were out, the tide was only about 3 foot above normal. I haven't seen any flooding in the street where I am, but like I said, we haven't been outside for the last probably 3 hours. So there may be some flooding in some parts of the town, but right now I couldn't tell you for sure.
Okay, Bobby, and it's important to note that anything else you'd like to tell people who are watching today, who are listening to you today?
Well, when they tell you to evacuate, you need to heed the warning because this is a pretty serious deal. It got bigger than it was supposed to be. Some of the people I know that stayed didn't think it would be this big. So if they tell you to leave, you probably need to leave.
All right, Bobby, that's some great advice. Lee and Steph, back to you.
Leaving is a good idea, and don't go out there. As we were just seeing there in that graphic, Port Aransas maybe 5 miles from the eye of that Category 4 hurricane.
And Constable Sherwood right there, he was just saying that he thought he was in the eye of the storm, but that wasn't exactly the case. Obviously have a different vantage point. Obviously things feel differently when you're there on the scene.
Right.
But you have the maps here, and you're able to track it.
Yeah, he was on the edge of it. But
Within 5 miles of it, yeah.
Yeah, he was within 5 miles, but he wasn't there. You're right. I can point it out. If we can go to the main satellite picture that shows the eye about to cross land. No, that's not the main one. Let's try the other main one.
There we go.
That one. Okay, you can see now.
He's right there.
Yeah. Can I walk into
Right
to the key wall here? Okay. And then I can point this out for you. Okay. So here is the edge of the eye. Here is the eye wall, and Port Aransas is right here. So he's right on the edge. He's less than 5 miles away, right there. When the center of this, which is right here, crosses the coastline, then we have landfall, and that will happen within an hour.
They need it.
All right, so the help is going to be on the way as soon as all of this calms down. Again, we're going to have to wait to see how long that happens. And again, the National Guard, the Texas National Guard, on standby to come down here and do whatever we need help with.
Oh my.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were just hearing a sound too coming in.
Was that something hitting the building, or?
That was the wind. I just got a text here. It says seems to be getting worse. That's because the eye is beginning to make landfall. That's when the worst happens.
Is basically just across the bay
landfall.
from us.
We've got tremendous winds right outside of the KRIS-TV building right now. You can
There's
see
a live picture.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell what's going on except that it's chaos, and it's powerful hurricane force winds that reach to a major status of 111 miles an hour or greater. Wind-driven rain, and again, a lot of devastation happens in these type of conditions. I can see some cars down there, and it looks like an open parking lot. I'm not sure which one that is.
That's the parking lot right in front of the TV station, actually. That's the county parking lot there. Off to the left is the parking lot for the county courthouse.
Okay, good. I wasn't just so the
kind of hard to see.
The public library was beyond that, and the AT&T building I think was there. So okay, this is again we're right at the pinnacle right now of the worst of this, and then it'll plateau and then start to go down slowly. Lots of times after landfall, which I think is going to be in a few minutes, drops off rapidly. This is just going to be very, very slow. Very, very slow and gradual.
Basically what you're saying is brace for impact.
That's well said.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And, more than 900 members of the Guard have been put on standby. Military helicopters also on standby in Austin and San Antonio. This is what you were talking about.
Yeah, these helicopters will be really helpful if we get the heavy flooding that is possible and we have roads closed and that sort of thing. People on the ground, first responders on the ground, are not going to be able to get into some areas, so those helicopters will be very, very useful in getting to those areas that you can't get by ground vehicle.
And they'll be coming from
San Antonio and Austin area.
Yeah, where
and Austin.
That's right. That's a good plan. If I can go back to that picture, I wanted to show our audience one more feature about that, if I can, and let's do that now. If we can go back over to the key wall and show the picture without the data on it, and okay, and we've talked about the wobbling effect of this, like a top on a table. And you can see how it's wobbled to the left. The last shot here shows it wobbling to the left. And so that's why Rockport, Key Allegro area on up the Lamar Peninsula is just getting pounded on by this right now. This is a very, very serious situation. Lots of devastation taking place along and around this center circulation. That's why we have the horrific winds going on here in Corpus Christi right now. Okay, and we just, Juan came over here while you were doing your latest weather hit to let us know that I think some of our own building is sustaining some damage.
We heard a loud boom just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and maybe that's what you were reacting to. A part of our ceiling, or the tiles from the ceiling, collapsed.
Well, the pressure on the building is flexing it, and ceiling tiles popped off.
Okay.
That's
So-
Well, we're not evacuating.
no,
we're here.
That's
We're
indicative
here
of some
with
pretty
you.
strong winds right here in the downtown area.
Yeah, and this is a very stout building. This building was built to withstand something like this for a reason, because the people that owned it at the time knew that it was going to happen, and so eventually. And so they built a very strong building. So if it's happening to this building, which I feel very safe in, I can imagine when it's happening in some of the older homes in the city of Corpus Christi right now. It's something that you never want to see, but you know is inevitable when you live in the tropics. And so that's what we're dealing with right now. And whatever's happening here in Corpus Christi is not as bad as what's happening in Rockport, and it's about to happen in Port Aransas, has already happened, and then up towards Refugio County.
But you know, there's such a, when you look at, if you were to have a Google Earth image of all of the homes and all of the buildings around Corpus Christi, you know, there's such a diversity there. Of course, you've got your multi-million-dollar homes on Ocean Drive, but also immediately around our station, you have a lot of older homes that aren't even on concrete slab.
We also have a lot of mobile homes.
Yes.
Well, and we had a lot of questions about that yesterday and the day before. We had on Facebook Live, and that's a great way to interact with people. And people said on there, they asked the questions and we responded. They said on the I live in a mobile home. Do I need to get out? And unequivocally, my answer was yes. And I know that those people heeded that advice, because a mobile home is not safe, especially when it's up in the air. Again, you get things up in the air that aren't on a foundation, and they tend to get airborne a lot easier.
Now, of course, you know they do put these long storm straps on these mobile homes. You have these long ground screws. They're probably, 3 or 4 feet long, about this big around, that they drive way down to the ground. But that's not enough to withstand the force of a Cat 4 hurricane if you get a direct hit.
That's right. So we'll go over this again in a minute. I'm going to step over to the weather computer.
Weather stations that we
Right.
have here in the area are kind of down right now. If I could show you the wind map, and I could show you the wind gusts that we were seeing, but those are false at this point. So these are some wind reports from the National Weather Service. 8 miles to the southeast of Aransas Pass, they've recorded 109 mile-an-hour wind gusts, and 8 miles southeast, they've also 90 miles per hour. In Fulton, 83 miles per hour. Near the Flower Bluff area, they're reporting 75 mile-an-hour winds. Here in Corpus Christi, they have one particular wind gust at 63. Robstown at 58 miles per hour. And even out into the inland areas, this is out at the Alice International Airport, they have one report coming in at 45 miles per hour. So it's fairly significant across the entire South Texas area. And even though Harvey is a compact storm, it's certainly delivering a punch for us here, most definitely. And even right now, the one wind gust that may be actually accurate on our wind gust map is out in Robstown. It's reporting a 58 mile-an-hour wind gust at this point. But I think here in Corpus Christi, I think we're pretty close to 80 or 90 miles an hour. What do you think, Dale?
I just did a quick examination of the building, and we're taking on damage on the west side of our building right now. And it literally sounds like a freight train.
Absolutely.
Outside. And we're talking about cinder block walls that are that thick, and very secure compared to a home. And we're taking on damage over here on this side of the building.
It's
on
incredible.
the west side of the building.
Yeah,
It really is
reinforced cast
incredible.
concrete.
Yes, that's what it is, and the rebarb and everything through it. So I mean, you could drive a truck up the side of it, but again, it's.
You just step out of this this studio right here, and you hear the howling outside of this.
Just on the other side of the
Just on the
studio.
other side of this door right here, we're seeing some.
It's
of that.
amazing that we're not really hearing it in here. So,
Well,
I guess
we've
it's
got-
the insulation up at the ceilings, that sort of thing helps.
Well, we've got that door shut, and that's one thing that we did at our home before we left, is we shut all the doors everywhere to kind of reinforce it, at least a little bit. But there is, this is it. This is the worst of it. And you had people reporting, when is this going to be over? And that Constable Sherwood, that's what he was talking about. I mean, this is it right now.
To some people who are just tuning in right now, if we can just go to, do we have any Skycam shots right now that we can show to our viewers so that they can get a look outside? Okay, we only have one available to us right now.
Again, this is looking toward the downtown area and the bayfront from the Skycam up on our tower here at the TV station. If you look down in the bottom foreground, those are cars in the county parking lot that serves the county courthouse, which is just off to the left side of the screen.
It is, and then a little bit further on there, beyond the parking lot, is the library, the Corpus Christi Library. And
they don't have any lights on either.
They don't have any either. And the only reason we have lights on is we're on backup generator power, and so we don't have air conditioning. But hey, nobody else does too. So
yeah, a lot of people out there. With the last report, 71,000, or have we updated that?
73,000 from AEP. That was maybe.
What, about
an hour ago. So you can be sure that that number has definitely grown.
That number will easily reach 100,000 if it hasn't already.
Correct. But at last check, 73,000 people, or 73,000, excuse me, customers, which means homes and businesses without power. And that's just AEP. That's not NEC, which is in other parts of our viewing area.
Mm-hmm. A week ago, we said that's just not possible, but it is possible. Obviously, we're seeing it happen.
So that's 46 years since the last time this has happened here. 46 years. No.
47?
No, 46 years. We're talking about Carla in 1961.
Yeah, that's a point that was made earlier today. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, shocked is a word that we in the news industry might use a little too often, right? I was shocked, but for a lot of people, they really are surprised that this is what's happened. And so a lot of big cities around our state are now watching this situation. They're watching us right now, streaming online, and I've been reading that one shelter in Dallas, as far away as Dallas. What's Dallas? 6.5, 7 hours away from here. Mm-hmm. They've already opened up a shelter because they are anticipating lots of evacuees from our area. Same deal right now. I just read with Austin. Austin is also opening up some shelters for people in our area.
And I imagine a lot of motels and hotels are really full down in Laredo. I had a neighbor across the street headed for Laredo early this morning because that would be a safe place to go.
That was a smart move. No doubt. Did the right thing.
Just to head west instead of north.
And that was our message coming out of this. And these are pictures from earlier in the day in Rockport. I know Andy Lascano and his crew got these. As you can see here, the wind was already picking up, but this was prior to the storm getting close to making a run at the coast. And you can see the wind-driven rain. This is in Rockport. Live oak trees still shot there. Look at the water building up along the roadways from the horrific rainfall taking place.
That was actually shot recently by Andy Lascano.
I'm going to take my coat off because our AC is still not on. It's getting a little warm in here.
Yeah, you might notice that all of us here on KRIS 6 News have a glow. It's not glow, it's actually sweat.
Earning our pay tonight.
All right, if we can go out and show another picture of our Skycam right now, if we are available to do that, you could see that rain there. It's becoming significantly less visible than it was even 20 minutes ago when we went to that picture.
The dark portion of that screen in the middle of it, up toward the top below the lights you see there, that's actually the main library. They've got no power, but that dark spot just below the lights you see at the top of the screen is where that's located. Down below that is the parking, one of the parking lots for the courthouse. At this point, we can just barely see the shapes of cars that are down there. One of those is mine, and I hope it stays there.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't turn into a boat, or doesn't, just float away.
Well, Aransas Bay, Copano Bay, and the Highway 35 bridge, that's where the center is going to pass. Hasn't happened yet. We're at 950, but it's close. It's just inching towards the coast. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't seeing this because of those power outages that you mentioned, but we are going to keep going as long as we can on this. There it is. I mean, we're very close to landfall now, and we're very close to 10 o'clock. We had reports earlier that we had made landfall, but that not yet. And the worst of the storm, that's that area in red and orange. That's that eye wall is passing over Aransas Pass in Port Aransas, and it has hit Rockport. Now,
yeah, unfortunately took that last little jog to the west.
Yep.
And we had got them in So the middle of it.
That last little turn. Where is Andy Lascano? I know we were going to see if we could get a report from him getting into the eye of the storm. It'd be very interesting to see if he got in there, but I don't know if he would be able to go through that
We didn't
eye
know
wall.
he could do it safely or not, but
No, there's no way. There's no way he could do it safely. But
Right.
he could do it, but he's not. There's no way he could do it safely. No one should be out in this, if for no other reason than power lines coming down and live wires on
Just
the
can't
ground.
get around, and
That
you
could be a
won't be
serious
able to
problem.
see them.
As we've
because
been
of the
Until
lights.
it's too late. Yeah.
So we've been mentioning all night these strong winds knocking out power to more and more homes and businesses all over this area. More than 60,000 homes and businesses across the area, we're told, now in the dark. Here's a look at some of the latest numbers coming into us. In Cal Island, more than 1,200 homes and businesses without power at this hour. Here in Corpus Christi, more than 32,000 people, or customers we should say, have no electricity because obviously in a lot of those homes we have families. So there's more than just 32,000. More than 1,200 customers in Cal Island also in the dark at this hour. Nearly 6,900 people without power in Port Aransas and Aransas Pass.
And more than 10,000 people in the dark in Rockport. About 2,600 people affected in Portland. Excuse me, again, customers.
Go ahead and talk.
Okay,
for a
obviously
moment.
there's a lot of commotion here into our newsroom too, because we are getting new information into us. We're working to relay that information into you, and Juan Acuna, who's also here at the Weather Center, is giving new information to our chief meteorologist, Dale Nelson. If you could discern what he just gave you, it's a report from the National Weather Service.
Well, this is a preliminary storm report, and they have winds 2 miles east-northeast of Port Aransas. This is where Constable Sherwood, we talked to him earlier. He was about in this location. 2 miles east-northeast of Port Aransas, wind gust to 125 miles an hour. 2 miles east-northeast of Port Aransas, 110 mile an hour sustained winds, 131 mile per hour wind gust via social media. Numerous structures destroyed. This is in Rockport. Numerous structures destroyed. Debris filling the air, estimated peak wind gust 125 miles an hour. This is from a trained spotter. 1 mile east-northeast of Copano Village in Aransas County. 121 mile an hour wind gust measured. That's also near Rockport, of course. And then buildings collapsed with people trapped inside and squad car windows broken out in Rockport.
That's
Again,
because they're getting the worst of it right now as we see that eye moving right over.
that's right, and this is what my biggest concern was, that this was going to happen. And again, we haven't talked about it for about 20 minutes, but you folks in Refugio, it is on the way, and in Refugio County, get ready because you need to get in the central part of your house and on the lowest floor, and take pillows. And take a mattress with you because this is extremely serious. This is a life-threatening situation.
But I just want to go back to something that you just said moments ago. Numerous structures in Rockport destroyed. But you also said something about buildings collapsed with people trapped inside?
Yeah.
That's right. This is the report in Aransas County in Rockport. Squad car windows. This would be the police force, broken out by the wind or flying debris in the wind. And then also, this is in Corpus Christi. We've got multiple trees down on Galahar and Castoritz. That's not a surprise, but it's good to know.
Okay. We've also got Priscilla Davis in the newsroom right now. I understand she has some breaking news. Can we go to her?
Okay, no, we're going to send things on over to her in the newsroom, and she has a live update for us. What's going on, Priscilla? What do you know?
That according to Carolyn Vaughn, she has sent an email to the mayor and council, which states, and I want to read this verbatim to you, that we need to issue a precautionary boil water notice because we lost power in various areas of the system. One of the main areas is related to monitoring water pressure. Staff thinks things are fine, but cannot tell because they cannot see. Now, here's some information that we want to pass over to you in regards to this precautionary boil water notice. Here's a couple of things we want you to keep in mind. If you get sick from drinking the water, the symptoms are similar to food poisoning. You'll experience nausea, diarrhea, cramps, and possibly a mild fever. If you get these symptoms, the most important thing to do is avoid dehydration. Drink plenty of fluids and avoid drinks with caffeine such as soda, coffee, and tea. If you are concerned about your health or the health of a family member, contact your health care provider.
And there he is. So he is safe, but he's here to give us a live update. What do you hear out there, Andrew?
Stephanie, I'm going to try to give you the most accurate sense I can get, so I'm going to step out a little bit further. I have to say I've been lucky so far in our coverage. I may be the only reporter who hasn't been out in these winds, at least here in town in Corpus Christi. Obviously, we have reporters like Andy Lascano and others who are in much worse conditions if the eye isn't over Andy right now in Rockport. I'm going to step out a little bit further and see what I can feel. My colleague tells me that the wind gusts out here right now are 70 miles an hour. Since I've never been in anything like this, I don't know any different. I can tell you that the winds are heavy. I'm going to step out just a little bit further because I still feel like the station's protecting me a little bit. And it's pretty heavy. I'd imagine, based on what Dale has said and what our coverage has shown us earlier today, I mean, we know this isn't nearly as bad as some of the cities that are north of us. It's definitely not that bad. It's not great out here, I'm not lying to you, but it's not too bad right now. And since this is my first experience with winds like this, I have to say it's not too bad. I will say that there's a bunch of stuff that's been blown around. I mean, there's some debris or some leaves right here. Obviously, you can't see what I'm seeing. If I look around, there's trash. You can imagine there's trash, bottles, some things that are spread out. Let me grab this one more time. If you can see this, can you see this pretty good? I'm going to try to throw this and see how this does. So really not too bad. And it may be because we're shaded by the building here a little bit. So I'm going to try to stand out as far as I can. It's heavy. I mean, it's definitely heavy, but as the storm makes landfall, okay, and now we just got a strong gust. As I said, it wasn't too bad. It probably jokes on me a little bit there. But as the storm makes landfall out here, I can feel what Dale has been talking about. And since I'm not a meteorologist and this is my first experience with winds like this, now I understand what he's talking about, the difference between the cities that are north of us and where we are right now. And so just in the experience I had right here, I can tell you that it's bad, but it's not that bad. And with that, I'll send it back to you in the studio, Lee, Stephania, Dale.
Okay, and he was just out there for about a minute, and
Yeah.
He already came back, and he was soaked. And we all kind of laughed when he threw that debris up there, and nothing happened.
He was
but
behind a building.
That's exactly why it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, can I say two things? He kind of alluded to it. He's got a 2.5-story building in front of him there blocking the wind. So smart.
It sounded like a jet engine behind him.
Yeah, smart, but not realistic. And number two, we've got over 100-mile-an-hour winds outside, and so Andrew, if you're listening, we've got over 100. That's a 100-mile-an-hour wind you're looking at here at least. Mm-hmm. And I understand now we just heard from the floor crew that we're going to go live to Andy Lascano.
Yeah. Do we have that right now?
All right.
News Severe Weather Center. This is Tracking Harvey, brought to you by Herman & Herman, always putting you first.
Okay, now we're going to send things on over to Andy Lascano, who's joining us live in Rockport to describe the scene out there. Andy.
Okay, guys.
Well, obviously, we're having some technical difficulties with that. With the peak of the storm right there, that's interfering with our cell phone signals. He was trying to get into an area to experience the eye of the hurricane, the calm at the center of the storm. Hopefully we get back to him in a little while. We'll keep trying to do that.
But more importantly, we do want him to stay safe. And this is just some of what we're going to run into as some of our reporters are out there in our area trying to give us updates. Technology is just not fully working right now.
Okay, here it is, 10 o'clock. Eye of Category 4, Harvey makes landfall between Port Aransas and Port O'Connor. Catastrophic flooding expected due to heavy rainfall and storm surge yet to come. And so let's go over to the key wall. We'll show the latest coordinates. Let me know when I can slip in there, guys. And yes, I have lost my jacket. I don't normally do this, but we'll do it now because that's the way it is. The AC is out in the building. You can see the wobbling effect. Category 4 hurricane making landfall on the middle Texas coast, again, just north of Port Aransas. Category 4, the 10 o'clock advisory, 130. The gusts are up to 160, moving northwest at 7. It's slowed down. We're now down to 938 millibars. So we've seen rapid intensification in this storm, which is now 30 miles northeast of Corpus Christi. and the track continues to take it on up to the north. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
You know what? We actually have
We heard that
seen
loud boom about, what, 45 minutes or an hour ago?
something like that, and now we're getting sound from our own Juan Acuna, who's describing some of that there, or excuse me, video.
So much wind outside. You know, we have 80, 90 mile an hour winds here in downtown Corpus Christi, and this is a working newsroom, so all of us were, or not all of us, there were several of us going in and out of the doorway to go back into the studio to get some graphics and stuff ready for our newscast that's been going wall-to-wall coverage. And literally just a small difference between one doorway into the studio caused so much of a pressure difference that a lot of the ceiling tiles just kind of exploded. It was just a big cloud of dust within about half a second. We had several ceiling tiles that just came crashing down. It was a huge cloud of dust, and literally it happened in about just half a second just because of the pressure differences between the outside door and the studio door.
Wow.
We didn't have
There we have it.
The roof didn't blow off or anything like that, or there wasn't any damage to the roof. It was just this area here because there's offices up above here. And while you guys were, I ran up there real quick to see if those offices were still there or not, and they were fine.
It's just
above
making the building flex.
Yeah, from as Juan mentioned, the pressure differential. The pressure is a powerful thing.
Yeah, and what's funny about this is that you actually mentioned how secure you feel in this building.
Yeah, even though seeing that, I still feel secure, but I'll be walking the other way next time we do that.
You won't be spending too much time back there.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
I haven't been back there all afternoon. I forgot what it looks like.
Yeah. Feels like forever ago, a lifetime ago. All right, in the city's latest press conference regarding Harvey, if we're going to talk about that press conference, are we? Could we get some direction from our production?
Okay. We're being told that we're still waiting to hear from Andy Lascano to try and get in a report from the eye of Hurricane Harvey. It hasn't happened yet, but
Let's sure
he's efforting.
Let's sure hope that we hear from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
another pop there. What was that? Another ceiling tile?
Another ceiling tile.
Pressure differential.
Yeah. Wow. So that's one of the reasons you want to board up those windows and keep the building envelope in your house tight. You don't want this pressure differential getting in there because things pop and then the wind gets in, and like you said, it pulls it up. Like there's a tree that we were just, like we were talking about earlier. Look at that. You can see it actually get blown over. And Dale, you were mentioning that's largely in part not only due to the wind, but because the soil is actually just soaked with water.
It's soft soil once we get all this rain, and then you put the wind on top of it, and then it falls right over. And that's what we're seeing right there. And also, that's in the roadway. So now, whoever would be traveling along that road cannot go that way anymore.
Hi, folks. Andy Lascano, Channel 10 and KRIS-6 News. We are in Rockport. Harvey's here. It is, what time is it now? It is about 10:15. Harvey's been here for about an hour, and Harvey's causing a lot of problems here. We're sitting right now in our station vehicle, okay, because we were going to go out and do a live look outside for you, but I don't know if you can tell, the rain and the wind are enormous. In fact, I can see the road right here in front of us is already become flooded. We're sitting here in our vehicle and we can already tell what damage the wind is doing, because as we're talking to you, we can feel different types of debris hitting our van. I'm sure it's going to be tree limbs. We've already seen some come down. Some came down on or near our station vehicle. We've seen a big old tarp in a person's driveway come down. And like I'm saying, I can look out right now. We're in a residential neighborhood. I can look right out on the road, and it is flooded. And as I say, we're getting hit by a lot of different debris as we're sitting in our vehicle. We had intended to go out into the community to get you a better look, especially here at night, but this is the way it is right now. Right now, with photographer Dennis Kingsbury, we can feel our van tossing back and forth because of the strength of the wind and the rain that just keeps coming down real hard. So we're going to wrap this up for now, just to give you an idea what it's like in Rockport. Harvey's definitely here. We're going to check out some reports that people are calling in about some things that are going on around town. As soon as we think it's safe enough to get back on the road and get you that information, we'll do it. Okay, that's Andy Lascano for KRIS-6 News from Rockport.
One of those reports he was mentioning was a building that supposedly has a lot of damage, and they're going to try to get to it as soon as they can.
And we do have something from the National, was it the National Weather Service? You got a damage report here from Rockport.
Well, they were in the eye wall, as was Port Aransas and near Aransas Pass, and Rockport. Buildings collapsed with people trapped inside and squad car windows broken in Rockport. We're seeing multiple amounts of damage, 121 mile an hour wind gusts measured near Rockport, and then that happened. And then numerous structures destroyed in Rockport, debris filling the air, estimated peak wind gust 125. This is what happens when the winds get up over 100 miles an hour. Again, it's that force thing we talked about.
Quadruples.
You know, well, think about a 60 mile an hour wind. None of us would want to be in a 60 mile an hour wind, nor would they want our homes in a 60 mile an hour wind. But we could take it. But a 120 mile an hour wind is 4 times the strength of a 60 mile an hour wind. The force, 4 times the force. And so that's why we're seeing these damage reports come in that are just appalling.
Yeah, and we were just showing the only Skycam video that we have right now, live Skycam video, which is right outside of our studios now. It looks black and white and kind of eerie. If we can go back out live to that and just show that Skycam footage. Okay, well, now we're going to show some carport video. If you could remind us where this came from, where this video was shot, that would be great.
That was in the Annabelle area.
That was in the Annabelle area. And you said this before, this is going to be the iconic video from this storm.
You know, I've been out in storms down in the Brownsville area. We've seen stuff like that flying around, and it's truly frightening because you feel so exposed when you're out there. Even if you were behind the corner of a building and watching it, it's a frightening thing.
Well, it's dangerous with these flying projectiles in the air, and that's why we don't want anybody outside. We can see a little more of the parking lot now than we did on the last picture, but by all means, that doesn't mean it's not just extremely dangerous outside and dangerous conditions. And also, if you're still watching us and you can hear what we're saying, if you're in your home anywhere in the area, you need to be in the middle of the home now, because on the lowest floor, inside a hallway or bathroom. I think, Lee, you talked about pillows.
We have my daughter's bathroom is right in the middle of our house, and you may have heard my phone go off a few minutes ago. It was my wife calling, and she said that it had power out for about 3 hours. We live on the south side near Saratoga Boulevard. She says it's back on right now, so hopefully it won't go out again. But yeah, but if she's going to be in the middle of the house, that's we have a bathroom in the center for our daughter, and there are no windows there. There are closets and other rooms around that, and we have a big steel beam up in the ceiling, so that's the safest place in our house to be. We discussed that, and before I came to work, I told her if it gets bad, that's where you need to go with my daughter.
It's the center part of your house, lowest floor, and that's usually a interior hallway, bathroom, as you said, or that can also be, if you have a 2-story house, that is usually underneath the staircase. That is always reinforced by builders when they put those up, so the stairs don't fall down. So that's the safe place to be, and a lot of people, they will reinforce those areas, especially under the staircase. They'll reinforce them further, and that's what you call a safe place, a safe room inside a house. But it's more for areas for tornadic activity, as opposed to this situation where people normally evacuate.
And now we want to bring you a new picture coming into our newsroom of the damage from Rockport.
State Representative J.M. Lozano.
There you have it.
Well,
that looks like a lot of roof damage.
That's the whole side of the building gone.
Yeah.
That's the whole side of the building, and that's why also, I mean, again, I really don't want to say this, but that's why the damage from this is going to be not millions of dollars, it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars or more by the time it's all said and done. And the done part isn't going to happen for some time, because now the winds are going to start to come down in a few hours. And so the wind damage will abate, but the rainfall and flooding video damage is going to start rising.
Right.
We just haven't had that much of rain, or I guess maybe it's the winds driving it. We don't see lots of accumulation on the street from these pictures we've seen here in the downtown area. So
not yet, but there will be more to come, because what's going to happen is the storm Harvey is going to drag all that tropical moisture from the Gulf behind it and into our region. So we're going to see more moisture, tropical moisture. That's when you say tropical, we're talking about heavy rain, at least for short periods of times, and sometimes in this case extended periods of time. They're going to be dragged into the circulation of Harvey. And where is that going to be? That's going to be north of us.
We have some video now. Did I understand you to say the Harbor Master building blowing away?
In Aransas
This is the
Pass.
one on the bayfront? Oh, in Aransas Pass. All right. Here's the video.
Let's look.
There
you
it
see
goes.
start to come apart.
That's the roof failure right there. And now the hurricane is inside the building. And once the hurricane gets inside the building, it's massive.
Anything inside, it's trashed.
Yeah, massive devastation.
Wow.
Watch. Let's stay with this video if we can. You can see somebody driving along in a car right there. That's the car window. They were shooting this from inside the vehicle.
That might have been video from John Rapolo, but we haven't confirmed that.
Yeah.
Let's look at that.
Well, it runs out in just a
Oh,
sec.
that was posted by the Aransas Pass Police
Police
Department. That you
There it
see
is.
in
Look at
the
it go.
upper
So
left inside.
that building, even though we still see part of it there, it's a total loss.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Once the roof is up, wow.
Once the weather gets inside the structure, it's gone. Once the hurricane gets on the structure, it's gone. That's why you have to. The roof has to be solid and down. And of course it was, but who knew that they'd be dealing with 125 plus mile-an-hour winds, and that might have happened in a gust. And we've had gusts up to 160. In a minute, I want to let everybody know that we're going to show the 10 o'clock. Check that 11 o'clock information. Now, this just in at Port Aransas, large fishing boats forced inland and significant damage along the waterfront and shipping channel in Port Aransas. We knew that this was coming because they had major hurricane force winds, not just hurricane force winds, but major hurricane force winds. And now some of the fishing boats over there have broken away from their moorings, and significant damage along the waterfront and shipping channel in Port Aransas. And we're so sorry to see that, but there's going to be many, many more reports from the Rockport area and from Port Aransas of this happening, and then on over to Aransas Pass too. I wonder about those new homes over around Con Brown Harbor and in that vicinity that they've built since the last time we've had something like this. How well
they had that big area, I don't know what you call it, a levee or whatever around it, but they had the big corrugated metal.
Water out, but it won't keep the wind out.
Right.
And I'm just as concerned about the wind as I am the water. And both of them, in this case, are very damaging. Usually the water is the bigger damage. The storm surge is the bigger damage because that's what does more damage and kills more people. But it looks like the wind is going to end up being a bigger factor here, and I think that's because the intensification happened rapidly instead of slowly over a longer period of time. I think that's why that's the case.
And our building here isn't even immune to that. We just want to show you some video of some damage from our own building, some of our damage. This is in our break room. That's just feet from where we're speaking to you right now. Right now we're in our studio, feet from us, 20 feet is the KRIS-6 break room. That's on the second floor. But that was pressure that caused this to happen. And our meteorologist, Juan Acuna, went to check out that damage, and he said this, if we can go to what he said earlier today about that damage.
So there's so much wind outside. You know, we have 80, 90 mile an hour winds here in downtown Corpus Christi. And, you know, this is a working newsroom. So all of us were, well, not all of us, there were several of us going in and out of the doorway to go back into the studio to get some graphics and stuff ready for our newscast that's been going wall-to-wall coverage. And literally just a small difference between one doorway into the studio caused so much of a pressure difference that a lot of the ceiling tiles just kind of exploded. It was just a big cloud of dust within about half a second. We had several ceiling tiles that just came crashing down. It was a huge cloud of dust, and literally it happened in about just half a second just because of the pressure differences between the outside door and the studio door.
This is information coming in from the National Weather Service, or?
Yes, these are preliminary storm reports that will be a stack from here to the ceiling by the time this is over.
And if you hear a lot of commotion right behind us, it's because we have people working behind us in our newsroom. It's a working newsroom, and we're going to send things on out to Andrew Ellison, who's going to give us a live update from what's going on just outside of our building in downtown Corpus Christi. Andrew?
Stephanie, I'll let Dale give us the numbers on what the wind gusts are. Just going on feel, it feels like the wind is intensified from last time that I was out here, which was probably about half hour ago, maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Last time I was standing a little bit more in the shadow of the building. I don't know how much of a factor that is. I am assuming it's a factor. Again, I'm not a meteorologist. I will say, trying to be as safe as possible, if I take just a few steps, now I can really feel the gusts coming at me right here. And now if I take something like this and let it go, it moves a little bit further down the way here. There is a lot of debris out here. You can tell that the wind is pretty strong. The wind coming for me, from my angle, from left to right, and you really get a good sense of what the gusts are like. I mean, for me, this is really the first experience. You saw it right there. You can really feel what a powerful wind gust is like. I've never been through something quite like that. It is pretty interesting. You probably can't see the trees behind me. I have a good look at them, and they're swaying pretty hard. Obviously, this is what it's like for us by the station here in Corpus Christi. They're moving me pretty good. I actually have a pretty stable footing. I know it maybe looks like I don't. I'm going to come walking in a little bit. This is what we're experiencing by our station in Corpus Christi. Obviously, you've seen our extensive coverage on this. This is a very different situation in cities north of us, likely more intense, where the storm is making landfall. But that's the way it is for us out here by our station. Dale, I know you have the technical side of this. I don't know if things have changed drastically that much just in the last few minutes in terms of wind gusts.
All right,
All right,
Andrew.
thank you,
official now.
Andrew.
All of our reporters have gotten wet now.
So we've all covered storms before, and we have some kind of reference point. You made this point earlier that, you know, every storms are like people. They have different personalities, but it's always interesting. I was in college when Hurricane Katrina happened, and of course it was so bad. I went to Syracuse, and we had the school made a deal with Tulane University to accept some of their students because obviously they were all displaced after that hurricane. So I remember that as a reference point. And you remember the video of Hurricane Katrina and how devastating it was, and so you always wonder, you always want to compare one storm to another. And if we could show, MSNBC tweeted out this image of Hurricane Katrina compared to Hurricane Harvey. And if we could pop that up on our screens right now so that we could give people some kind of...
They're looking for it.
Okay, they're looking for it right now, but that is, we are going to show you that just momentarily. But Dale, you can get a look at it right now. It's on our monitor, our weather monitor there, so that we can talk about the differences between those two storms, or perhaps even the similarities between Katrina and Harvey. And there you have it. That was a side-by-side image. Thank you, Juan Acuna, who got that on for us. That just MSNBC tweeted out that image, but there you have it.
Harvey's not as big a storm, but they both had the same type of strength. But Katrina obviously is going to end up. Katrina was a $25 billion storm.
Yeah.
We're not going to be at that level, thank goodness. But Katrina killed a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And we're not going to see that either. Hopefully it doesn't look that way.
That was an interesting image. It reminded me of one I saw yesterday, taken of Harvey from the International Space Station.
That's right. That was on an update that we did last night about midnight.
And did you see the eye there where it just looked like bubbling water?
Right.
Bubbling up.
Those were those eye wall thunderstorms that build up, and those are the ones that have the tremendous energy in them that is unleashed at the surface as it moves towards the coast.
And we have been hearing that you guys are encouraging folks to just go ahead and stay off the roads this morning. Is that right?
Well, we want to do an assessment of the roads. Remember, there could be down lines, there could be debris, nails, there's things still out there. And as you know, you all are reporting, we're still in the tail end of the storm. We're not out of it yet. So let us get through and do some damage assessments and make sure the roadways are clear.
Do you have any initial idea what kind of damage we're talking about in the city? I mean, I know it's been a long night and you have, probably had your hands in 100 different things there, but do you have any initial idea of what kind of damage we're talking about?
No, I haven't had a full report yet. I know there's some damage that's happened to cheeses, and there's some downed lines. I know there's some a gas line that's been broken. So there are some things out there that could create a hazard. I know there are some trees down or some limbs down, and I drove last night late around, or actually very early this morning myself. So there are things to be cognizant of on the roadway. Right. So just don't leave the house unless you absolutely have to, and I would show restraint even then. So just let the storm pass and let us get things cleaned up.
Now,
we've been very successful, so let's keep that success going.
Now, Chief Markle, can you tell us anything about where you have your patrol units stationed? Is this a situation where you're going to have your officers spread out throughout Corpus Christi doing assessments, or are you going to focus on one specific area? Can you tell us anything about how your operation moves forward from right now and throughout today?
Sure. What happened? So you know that we sheltered in place like everybody during the initial onset and impact of the storm. We did start doing some main street patrols early this morning. There has been no incidents of looting reported, but we did want officers out there. The officers wanted to get out there when it was safe to do so. So we've already been out and about, and we're looking for those things. It's our officers that have found the broken gas lines and those kind of things. So we have been out there.
Okay, so you've already been out there doing what you, again, just to reiterate, your advice for folks who may have evacuated and are already thinking, all right, storm has passed, I'm coming back home. Probably it's too early, right?
Yes, there's still power out in big parts of the city. We're on a water restriction right now. So there are some things, if they have services, if they can come back, I would have just asked that they wait until we get things assessed and cleared up. The storm is still trailing here, so let's finish it out right. That's my hope.
Yeah.
We've gone through the night. We've had no major injuries reported thus far from the storm, so that is our benchmark for success.
All right. Well, Chief Markle, we appreciate your time this morning. We know that you and your officers are going to have a busy day, busy weekend, and busy days ahead.
And I think we should remind people that we are streaming on our website, KRIS-TV.com, and we can let all your relatives know that you can go to that website and get an update as to what's going on simply by logging in and logging on. So, and I think a lot of people are doing that and paying close attention because, as you know, a lot of people own property down here and they live maybe in San Antonio North, and they have their own property down here they're very concerned with. Now, I know this is a live picture with Jessica Savage and Mike Salazar. Just a wonderful shot. He's been driving around the last couple of days. You get so much perspective when you can see it right there as if you're driving the car yourself. And they're out looking. They just found the first local convenience store that's open where people were lined up to get food.
They're accepting cash only. They don't have power.
No power. Exactly. And we'll hopefully start seeing a little bit more of that, which is great.
A word of caution to anyone. The power lines are pretty visible. It's the data lines that you can't see. I nearly snapped one this morning driving along in this fairly dull, low light. Just a word of caution to everyone on the road. Pay attention to what's in front of you. Don't be looking around. Try not to be watching the damage as it passes by. Keep your eyes on the road.
Another intersection without lights. Remember, you got to treat that as a four-way stop. We're going to see a lot of that. AEP will get out and do what they can when they can. But we spoke with Officer Jessica Savage, Travis Pace, a little while ago, and they have a lot of things they have to do. And first and foremost, clear the debris off the roads, and before they can get the crews in to clean up. And I guess the silver lining here is we did sort of get skirted by the storm. It's not pouring down rain here, and that was a big sticking point with AEP. It might take a few days for them to get out, 3 to 7 days to get out and start repairing some of the power problems.
Well, and speaking of AEP, I've just refreshed the AEP outage map that they've got on their website, and it looks like there's a little over 200 total customer outages in the area. So, Rick, You're obviously not one of those 200,000,
No,
but
it seems like a
it's
low
amazing.
number compared to what we heard late last night. That's interesting.
And I'm the only, the other side of my street is out. So it's just a few
Yes.
homes on my side of the street. My neighborhood is almost entirely without power. Older neighborhood, a lot of down trees. Amazingly enough, another thing I noticed was so many trees fell into the street and not into houses.
And there's an AEP crew right there working at the Baldwin and Crosstown. That traffic signal just, boom, they're trying to get that taken care of. And you're going to see Mike Salazar going to get a better picture of this for us. And, you know, I live right across from Shoreline Hospital downtown, and they had power. And I drove home late last night, and we zero power. And to walk up 10 flights of stairs, that was fun.
That's no
But that's what happens. One part of the one traffic light works, the next one, next intersection does not. But this is again Mike Salazar at what was that intersection again? Crosstown
That's,
and
Crosstown and Baldwin.
Near Baldwin,
in Baldwin.
yeah.
That's Baldwin.
And you'll see the first crew. This is, I guess, the first video we've seen of AEP out trying to restore some power.
And we also have an update from TxDOT this morning. They're apparently sending out 250 to 300 employees to ride the roads, assess damages, and check pavement to make sure that roads are safe for first responders. Their biggest concern here right now is downed power lines, as Rick mentioned a second ago. They say TxDOT crews aren't trained to handle this. They are reporting downed lines to DPS Disaster Center, who is coordinating with AEP. Right now, Highway 188 between Sinton and Rockport is impassable due to standing water, and RVs that are blocking the road on I-37 at Navigation is closed on both sides due to collapsed road sign structure. It's passable through the frontage road, but TxDOT advises drivers just to avoid the area altogether.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And again, here's the Texas Department of Transportation truck right there. This is Baldwin, Crosstown. We all pretty much know that intersection where they're trying to get that repair work done and get that traffic signal working again.
And earlier we were hearing from Jessica Savage, who was interviewing Senior Officer Travis Pace. He said right now they have about 150 officers just patrolling the area, driving around. Obviously you see a CCPD officer right there. That's why I mentioned that. Right now they have about 150 officers on shift, driving around to help out in any way that they can.
Okay, well, we want to switch gears here a little bit. Our Emily Hamilton is on the island, and we just got reports from Emily that there's a house over there that had burned overnight, and that's part of what happens when the power can go out.
Yes.
You get a spark and then potential fire. That's always a concern, situation like that. Let's see if we can't check in with Emily right now to get the very latest on what we're talking about. Emily, take it away.
Good morning, Drew. We're out here at the corner of Whitecap and Cruiser, where last night's fire departments were called out here to a fire. Already, this triplex, actually, this wasn't just a single home, it was a triplex. So 3 homes built together, and they were called out around 2:30, saying it was fully engulfed out here. Now, we do want to show you some of the scene. Absolute devastation here. We've got 2 Jeeps and 2 trucks completely charred that you can see, and actually way ahead in the front, in front of the Jeep and that truck up there, there's actually another Jeep up there completely burned. You can't even see it underneath all this debris. Now, there's lots of unanswered questions here. We haven't been able to get much information from the fire department because the fire crews that are out here at this time actually came out here around 8:30 this morning to relieve the crews that were here all night. So they're still working to gather that information. Now, we obviously spoke to homeowners that are out here. They do not want to be on camera, but they say they're completely devastated. You know, you prepare. They had evacuated to her mother's house on kind of the south side. They thought that would be a safer place for them to be. So they were spending the night on the south side to get out of the way of here. And so definitely not what you anticipate when trying to get away from your home in a hurricane, is to find out that your home has been completely destroyed in a fire. So that is basically all the information that we do have for you guys right now, but we'll continue to bring you any new details as the fire department gives them to us. And we do have arson investigators and investigating crews on the way to continue looking into this fire. But for now, reporting at the corner of Cruiser and Whitecap, Emily Hamilton, KRIS 6 News.
That looked like a much bigger fire than I originally thought it was going to be. Well, again, those are the kind of things that we're talking about today. That was, again, storm related, no doubt. So.
And we also have Jessica Savage. We're going to go back to Jessica, who is now with AEP crews that we just saw a second ago. trying to repair one of the lights at Baldwin. Do we have Jessica available?
She was at Baldwin and Crosstown, and we were showing those pictures a moment ago where the...
We're out here at the intersection of Crosstown and Baldwin, where you can see a traffic light has fallen down. Police are blocking off one lane of one of the turn lanes at the intersection. People, of course, are treating this like a four-way stop because there's no power right now. We have TxDOT crews out here with large machinery. It looks like they're getting ready to lift this stoplight off the ground and get it out of the way so it will no longer obstruct traffic. Like I said, we're out here at Crosstown and Baldwin where some storm damage has occurred. A traffic light has fallen down into the roadway.
Barely hanging on there, so don't get too close.
And it's barely hanging on there for what we're hearing from TxDOT folks, so we're going to back away a little bit. But looks like they're about ready to lift this off the ground. Of course, this is blocking traffic. If you're coming from the west side of town over to the east side of town on Baldwin, you're going to encounter this intersection that is partially closed down. You're not able to. This stretch of road takes you first to Del Mar College East Campus, and TxDOT crews are out here right now working to lift this. I don't know if it looks like they're going to get ready here pretty soon to lift it off the ground. Some pretty extensive damage. That's a pretty large power or stoplight device here across the road. Of course, these are, well, you can see the street sign there kind of barely hanging on, wavering, indicating where we are. It's a pretty precarious situation. And we're out here right now. Like I said, TxDOT is taking control of this situation. We've got a police officer walking off the intersection. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit. If you're having trouble hearing me, we've got a little bit of rain coming down out here right now, but we're looking to clear this pretty soon here so they can get this intersection fully reopened. And we'll keep you updated on once this intersection's open and people are able to cross through. And that's all for now. Back to you.
This morning, it is a Category 1 hurricane, but boy, did it come in with a punch. Port Aransas saw the strongest winds, 132 miles per hour. Copano Village, 125 miles per hour. Aransas Pass, about 109. Rockport, about 108. Here in Corpus Christi, by contrast, about 63 miles per hour. And you can see the damage we're seeing here in the city with just the 63 to 65 mile per hour winds. Imagine what they're dealing with over in Port Aransas. So we are starting to get a much better picture of the damage as a result of this storm. But we are going to shift the focus with this storm from a major wind event to a flooding event. You can still see the circulation out there. What was the eye is up near the Cuero area. We're seeing the heavy rain up in the Victoria, but here's the big thunderstorm starting to move into central Texas near Cuero. But boy, this storm is impacting a very large portion of the state, from Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Austin, up to College Bryan Station, all the way over to Galveston and Houston. And this is where we're seeing the more intense thunderstorms. As we mentioned, the northeast quadrant of the storm is the most powerful part of the storm. And early this morning, we did get a couple reports of tornadoes right along this area here. We're just dealing with the wind and rain, but boy, some areas definitely saw a lot of rain. We did have the fringe right here in the Corpus Christi area. We picked up about close to 2 inches of rain. That moderate rain continued this morning, but you can see we were on the drier side, probably the more favorable side of this hurricane. This is where it really came in with a vengeance along Port Aransas, Aransas Pass, up into Rockport. So these areas, about 2 to 3 inches of rain, but right along where that eye came in, Port Aransas, about 10 inches of rain. Aransas Pass, about 11 inches of rain. Then the storm this morning has been weakening. We had very strong winds, over 100 miles per hour up in Refugio. Also got reports like that over into Woodsboro. But you can see that the heaviest rainfall is starting to taper off. We are looking at Goliad here, about 3.2 inches of rain. As it's making its way up into Victoria, about 3 inches of rain. So a lot of wet weather out there, but this is extending across much of the eastern half of the state. Look at this swath. This is right along I-10 and 290. This is one of the main routes between Austin and Houston. And this area also picked up anywhere between 8, 10, and 12 inches of rain. And this is what we're talking about. These are the problem areas. We've already seen 10 to 12 inches of rain. Add another 10 to 20 inches of rain. This is why we're looking at the possibility of some catastrophic flooding, and why we're going from that wind problem to the threat of a lot of flooding.
Hey guys, I am in Portland. I really don't know the name of the street because I think the street sign blew off, but I did want to show you guys what we are seeing here. Look at this home. All of the brick has come off from the home, and it all came down with the storm. You can see here, we can see here the fence also broke down, and just some serious damage to this home. A lot of brick that just fell off from the side. And I also wanted to show you guys the front. See if he can walk with me really quick here. I wanted to show you guys some of the damage here in the front of the house. You can see more of the brick that also fell off here. When we got here also, there was a pipe that actually busted, and neighbors were kind enough to close down the water main for these residents here. So they left actually a really nice little note at the front. But you know, it's all about that, neighbors helping out neighbors, and that's what these neighbors did. They turned off their water main because they did have a bust here. But like I said, some serious damage here.
Aniele Ruiz in Portland, you could see, I mean, the bricks literally coming off that house because of the damaging winds from the storm last night. And it's a good thing people in Portland took heed and took caution on the mandatory evacuation, because it's not a place you would want to have ridden out the storm. Yes, the day after Harvey, we're driving down Staples, and not a lot of rain.
Not a lot of flooding?
Yeah, this is heading actually back toward north, heading toward our television station. This is Mike Salazar, our chief photographer, driving along with reporter Jessica Savage, and they've been doing this all morning, driving around looking for, again, there's another intersection without lights. That's Morgan, and they've been talking to people. They found a convenience store that was open. Appears the first one in the downtown Corpus Christi area, where people were lined up outside, cash only, to pick up what they could, because you know that's the next step. All the H-E-B stores have been closed for some time now, and so we'll be gradually seeing some signs of life back into some of these businesses as we move forward.
Well, if there's any sigh of relief, Drew, for the people that are maybe live streaming our video, our newscast from Facebook, when you're looking at this area, this is an area that is prone to flooding, and it doesn't take much to flood. So if you're one of those who evacuated and you're watching this, if this is any relief to you to see that
looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, and you know, people are gradually making their way back out onto the roadways. And you know, this road, Staples, was recently redone, so it's new pavement, new blacktop, and much easier to drive in either direction here. And that's a good thing that was done. But this is an area, as you mentioned, and we had some snap trees and things like that right in our area, which we're very close to here. Mm-hmm. This is Agnes, and again, another intersection without power. And then, you know, you might find that there's so intermittent power outages, like one intersection may be okay and another one may not be. But as we head down Staples here, up Staples North, every single intersection appears to be is without power.
Well, and yesterday, I want to just note, yesterday, Alan Harwell and I were driving around town. A viewer had sent in a tip saying that a roof was damaged on an apartment building. So we actually took some of the back roads. We went down Staples yesterday, and this is not what it looked like. This is nothing compared to what we experienced just yesterday around 5 o'clock, and that was before anything really what started happening. I know Alan and I were driving down the area, and we were at a stoplight when they were still working, and we felt the car just kind of start to push forward with the gust of wind and rain, and that's when we decided, you know what, we definitely need to head back, and so we did. But I mean, right there you see some of the road blocked off.
That might be, I can't tell there that's a power pole down. That's, yeah, again, that's just behind our television station, very close. But the caution cones are out, and you can look at it. There's very little, wind, breeze, and rain. But we should tell you, with regard to road conditions, the Texas Department of Transportation, they do have a couple of ways for you to stay updated on conditions. You can go online to drivetex.org, or you can call 1-800-452-9292, and that's the latest road conditions. And again, these are roads that they may have gotten to by now, they may not have gotten to, so be patient with regard to that as well. Now we made the U-turn, we got down to where the cones were, basically the street was blocked off at Staples, and now I'm heading south, and it's heading out toward the crosstown, looks like right now, or at least to an area over here, another business that they're again driving around to see what they see, and to see if they see any kind of damage, or see if people are milling around and what they're doing. But we have not seen, at least horrible, damage in downtown Corpus Christi area. There's plenty of damage, but nothing that where you would think you see a rooftop off of a home or something like that. But believe me, there's damage out there, but the good thing is that this is the day after the storm has passed through, and people are getting back out again.
Now, I know that we're talking about minimal damage, but one thing that we've been talking about over and over is the fact that a lot of areas in town lost power, and one of those areas, Drew, is the city's water department. We don't know when or how many times, but the city last night issued a precautionary water boil notice that was effective immediately yesterday evening. So
that's the numbers are going up and not down. Let's show you some fresh video of also here. Yes, this is the picture we were showing you a moment ago, and this, I don't know if Tom wants to chime in here, but to me, I don't know if that's a storm surge here, Tom, or not, or if that's potentially just wind.
I think a lot of wind.
You think it was wind? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, because we didn't have that huge storm surge here. Yeah. Our piers seem to do pretty well, and on the bay there.
But that's our first close look at that iconic pier. That is, for the most part.
And that gives us a much better idea that about half of that is definitely gone.
Well, again, that's also a pier. We know that's an area that always floods, and they had their problems during rain events. But this thing has withstood since the night. If it has been there since the 1940s, it has withstood a lot of storms until Harvey.
It looks like we're back out to our chief photographer, Mike Salazar, and 6 Investigates reporter, Jessica Savage. They're driving around town. They've been driving around town all morning long.
Yeah, we just saw that power pole.
One power pole looks like there's another power pole. You got a tree there.
And this is the kind of thing we were just talking about before. You get in your car and you drive around, you're going to run into things like this because crews they'll get out to these locations when they can, but they're so widespread. You can't.
They have to prioritize.
Absolutely,
too, so
and it's going to take some time.
This may cause a little bit of an issue, but you don't have live wires out over the road, so they're not going to probably make this a high priority right off the bat. So you've got to be careful. You can see that the lines on that power line are underneath the tree, so anybody who has a situation like this in front of their house, use due caution.
Yeah, that looks like it's right out the cross town. We want to head over to Alan Harwell, who was in our newsroom as we were talking about the Oso Pier and showing those incredible pictures we just had. We want to talk a little bit more about that, and I believe Alan's in the newsroom, and we'll get to him in just a second here. But if we can go back to the video we were just showing you a moment ago of the Oso Pier, that we just brought back into our studios. We had that one photograph, but this, they say a picture tells it's worth 1,000 words. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing right here. That pier, there's nothing really, for the most part, left of it. Let's head over to Alan Harwell in the newsroom now with more on this Oso Pier situation. Alan?
All right, have a little bit of insight on the Oso Pier. I know you guys have been talking about it. I shot that video about 45 minutes ago, and you can see the kind of the shakiness of the video. The wind is still blowing pretty good out there. But again, built back in 1948, city's oldest existing pier. Not sure what they're going to do now after the damage, if they're going to try to fix it or what. But famous, of course, this pier for drum. In the winter, got awfully close. Didn't want to walk out there too far on the pier, but it's gone through a lot of hurricanes over the past decades. But this is the situation this morning. The Oso Pier, very famous. Thousands of people, of course, have fished here over the years, and again, very famous for drum in the winter. So, gosh, boy, you hate to see pictures like that, but hopefully they'll rebuild and people can go fishing there again as soon as possible. That's what's happening on the bayfront right now.
1948, what is that, almost 70 years, or I don't care if you can do my math, but that's a long time, and that's amazing. We should also mention we are under a water boil advisory here in the Corpus Christi area. Meantime, we want to talk to this guy, KZTV anchor John Rapola. Remember, we are simulcasting our coverage on KZTV and our website, KRIS-TV.com. John, you left early afternoon yesterday for Aransas Pass. We heard from you a little bit last night. And you just got back. Looks like you weathered the storm.
Well, it's been 24 hours of quite a journey there at Aransas Pass. I can tell you, if you head out there, you're not going to believe just how decimated that community is. We're talking overturned cars. We are talking houses demolished. We're talking all kinds of madness. We're talking first responders that could not even respond to people in need because they could not leave the building because of that limit of 50 miles per hour, the wind limit, by which safety vehicles, they will not let them leave the building because it's just too unsafe at that point. We have some video coming up that we're going to show you. It is just dramatic. Power lines.
Okay, John, we don't have that video right now. Why don't you let's go to it. Let's just talk to you. Now, you were talking about the building that they were in. They obviously had a headquarters set up where they were monitoring the activities that were going on there in the area, right? Now, tell us what that was like.
We got there, as you said, Drew, early afternoon, and they were kind enough to put us up in the EOC. From there, we went out to the community and we saw exactly what was going on at the start of the storm. The EOC building, the roof collapsed halfway through the night. Wow. Myself and my photographer were in there, and the roof collapsed, so we had to be ushered into another part of the building. We got to the EOC when we first got to Aransas Pass, and then at about 8:30, we went out in the community first, and then we got back there at about 8:39 because the winds were just so strong.
You couldn't do any reporting.
Well, we lost cell phone service. We lost everything. We couldn't put the mast up on the live shot. TV technical issues. We just couldn't do it. So I hunkered down, myself and my photographer, and with firefighters and police personnel. And thank you guys for what you did for us out there. They fed us, they took care of us.
But how frustrating must that have been for them, knowing that if there's 50 mile an hour, they can't do anything, to sit on your hands and knowing that this is what we're here for, that they can't get out and help people who may have been, they were getting calls, I would imagine.
They were getting calls that they could not respond to. Can you believe that? That's a first responder's worst nightmare. These guys, so selfless and concerned so much for other people's safety, really not concerned for their own. Which is, I've always had a lot of respect for first responders and police officers, firefighters who go out there on a daily basis and give their very best. And
they run into harm's way where most people won't get out of harm's way.
So the winds picked up throughout the night. We're talking 150 mile per hour winds, they told us. I don't know what our meteorologists are saying, what the winds reached over there, but the EOC said that those winds were 150 miles per hour. So that caused power lines to go down, cars overturned. We're talking about boats that capsized in the harbor areas. You're going to see some video here in a bit. It's just not ready because we just got back from Aransas Pass, and it is just unbelievable. That community, according to the police chief, is not going to be normal again for a month. He thinks they're not going to have power restored for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Phone service. No one has cell phone service there.
So everything was affected, the entire community.
I've never seen anything like it in my 23 years of TV news. I've covered hurricanes before. Me and you, Drew, were talking about that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You've covered a few in your day. This is my third one, but never to this extreme.
And being in the middle of it.
And being in the middle of it. I mean, you don't even want to go outside because the weather's so bad, you know. And
did you ever feel at times that it was getting a little scary? A little dangerous, where you felt your own safety might be at risk?
Very scary. I mean, the winds pick up, the rain's going each way. It throws your body in every direction. You really can't control it. You have to grab something. That's the way it was in Aransas Pass last night. And this morning, we left there just a short time ago because we wanted to bring back that video. We had no means to send it because cell phone service was out.
Right.
Everything was out. So we ushered it back. And on our way out of town, we had to guide our way through down power lines on Wheeler Road, which is the main thoroughway there in Aransas Pass. And again, that community has been thrown back a month, 2 months. AEP is going to have their work cut out there. We're talking homes destroyed. They haven't figured out if anyone has passed away yet or has died as a result of the storm.
But John, let me ask you, we have some viewers, and we've been encouraging viewers to ask us questions so that we can try and get them answered. One viewer actually just asked us a few minutes ago, when can residents return to Aransas Pass? Do you have any idea?
Well, the police chief, they're looking into right now. That's a very good question. They're looking into setting up a shelter now for the people that stayed. There was a mandatory evacuation in that community, and it was voluntary, although it was considered to be mandatory because they try to stress the fact that you need to get out.
Yeah.
Because once those winds hit 50 miles per hour, as I said, those emergency responders ain't going anywhere because of the danger of them getting into a dangerous situation trying to help somebody else. So I'd say, I didn't ask the chief directly that question, but people were starting to mill about today as we left. Things have calmed down there now. I haven't been able to check the forecast if that's going to reoccur, if it's going to bounce back, if that hurricane, Tom Harris is saying no, maybe, maybe not. But if it does, it's going to cause even more damage. A lot of people left, but some people stayed. A lot of people left. Boarded up homes, trees in the middle of the road. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable.
Well, we will get that video as soon as it's available to us, get it up, because it's a first-hand account of somebody who has, basically, you wrote out the storm yourself, you with Jay Pena, a photographer, and along with these first responders. You guys hunkered down all night. Did you get any sleep at all? Did they get any sleep?
Not really.
You really
no,
can't.
I mean, I was sitting in a chair with a blanket. They gave me a blanket. They gave me some new socks, you know. And, they gave us some fresh coffee. I mean, not exactly the TV face today, but hey, we're just coming back from Aransas Pass and the heat of the moment there. And like I said, people are very frustrated. They're checking their neighbors, those that are still there, asking them how they're doing. The biggest thing is that there's no communication. And it's like a third world nation there. And it's going to be like that for the next 3 weeks to a month. That, according to the police chief. So we're looking at a situation where the whole town has been thrown back.
Okay, John, listen, we got some video now. We want to roll some video. I want you to talk over it, if you would, and tell us what we're seeing and as we go through this, because you obviously...
This is a home that was completely decimated. I talked to one of the guys that was a neighbor. This is a sign in HEB parking lot that was ripped down. That's flooding. That's just off of Wheeler Road. This is unbelievable. This is a power line that, surprisingly enough, is still standing, albeit crooked. This is the harbor, which we went just past this guy. There were some overturned boats in the water. Again, flooding.
Debris everywhere.
Debris everywhere. If it wasn't locked down, it was flying through the air.
There's a car on its side.
There's a car on its side. Very common to see that. Again, the home that was destroyed. This was somebody's home. Wow. Look, you can see the air conditioner. You can see the dresser. You can see the stove.
Right.
When you walk up on this thing, it's so surreal. And the neighbors, they're just standing there looking. Again, the sign at HEB parking lot, flooding. And this is what Aransas Pass is like right now. And it's going to stay that way for a while until crews can get out there and clean up that mess.
Well, I don't think we would encourage people to drive into Aransas Pass at this point.
It's not safe.
It's mandatory evacuation.
At this point, first responders are still responding to those.
Let them do their jobs.
Let them do their jobs. They're still responding to people who are in need. They're just starting to get those calls to go aid people who need help. And the first priority is search and rescue.
Absolutely. I mean, these people clearly, let's just hope they got out of that house. Because it just looks like it just exploded.
It burst apart, and again, the Civic Center in town on Wheeler Road, that took a hit. Some part of the roof came off. There was a rumor that the high school roof came off. That didn't happen.
Okay.
And it was just, the high winds last night. I was actually trying to sleep, and it's been a while since I've been scared for my safety. I was scared for my safety last night.
I can imagine.
And that of my photographer. And those first responders, they kept us calm.
John, is that like a truck, like a U-Haul truck or some kind of, and those are a little heavier than your typical vehicle. And it's sitting there on its side.
Do you know how strong of a wind it takes to knock something like that over? I mean, we're talking a very strong gust. What happens, the wind gets under it and literally picks it up and it falls down. And there's windows that were smashed. Businesses no longer exist there that once were. We're talking about a town that completely needs to be rebuilt. And the chief actually told me to send a message to the people that if you can help the community in any way, it would be greatly appreciated in this time of need. He is doing, Chief Blanchard, everything he possibly can to help the people in that community. And his police officers and those firefighters, they're doing a great job. And sometimes we take these guys for granted, but it is during these times where we realize
just how
special and how unique they are,
and dedicated,
and how they make a difference, and how they sacrifice their own well-being for others. And
well, we're glad you're safe. We're glad you guys made it back okay. We're looking forward to more images and from Aransas Pass and other. We have some more video we want to show that we have not shown yet. That maybe you could talk over as well. This is some fresh
this is in the
video
middle
here.
of the street. I forget the name of the street because they all looked like this.
Right.
I had my photographer. We were just riding around town, and there's the truck overturned. Flooded areas, that's another truck overturned in a flooded area. Again, street signs, you can see the tree behind in front of the home. All trees were literally uprooted. Not all, but many. Okay, this is a rental truck in a parking lot. The windows smashed because of the ferocity of the winds. This, again, looks like a home or part of a business that once was completely destroyed. I mean, we're talking millions and this was a business. Was that a Pete's Chicken? I don't know. I was trying to figure out. I was looking at this thing and saying, what was that? Okay, there's the overturned boats.
Oh wow.
I believe those were shrimp boats that were overturned, and one of the guys was telling me, I rescued those guys. I rescued those guys out of the boat, and we were just all over the place. Again, look at this.
So John, since you guys were driving around before y'all came back today, for people who may just be waking up or thinking, well, let me go see what it looks like around town, what would you tell them?
Don't go there. I mean, there's power lines in the middle of the main thoroughways. You get off of 35. Power is out. Again, it's going to be weeks before power is restored to that community. Power lines are down. There's flooding in streets. You're going to get stuck in some of those streets. Some of these roads are impassable.
Yeah. Well, we need to let the people do the work to clean up the community, assess the damage before people come in and start looking around and getting it really, honestly, kind of in the way. Yeah. I know people want to get back to their homes and look and see what's left, but they will be given the opportunity to do that at the right time, and now is not the right time for that.
No, they need time to clean up. They need time to heal. They need help.
What kind of help would you say?
Well, I think they need state and maybe even federal help. I think that
FEMA?
The governor declared a state of emergency in 30 counties, communities.
State of disaster.
State of disaster in the state of Texas. So I think that Aransas Pass is probably going to be earmarked for state and even federal funds. If it seems that would be the way to go to help that community.
Yeah, and we have adjacent communities. We haven't even seen anything from Rockport, Fulton area yet, and I imagine it'll be pretty much what we've been seeing coming out of Aransas Pass. John, I know it was a long evening for you. It was difficult to have to go through this, but this firsthand reporting, it takes us right there and gives us a real true perspective, not only of what you went through, but what everybody else went through. And the fact that you're sitting here right now where we look at a house that's completely destroyed, and in and of itself is remarkable, because surviving these storms, when you write them out, you're always taking a chance. And those of us who do what we do for a living, putting ourselves and the first responders in harm's way, it's not an easy thing to do. So God bless you for coming back and being safe and bringing those pictures, my friend.
Okay, true.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well, there it is. Aransas Pass obviously isn't the same as it was, and it's going to be a long time before Aransas Pass turns back to be the kind of community it was beforehand. But they will get the help. They will rebuild, and let's just hope and pray that people there are going to be safe and are safe and survive this.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we have Jessica Savage on standby and ready to talk to us.
This is Jessica. Take it away.
By. We're out here live at KRIS-TV Shoreline, which is our level 2 trauma center, and we're told that there are going to be ambulances coming from all over the area, bringing in patients who are injured, who need emergency care here. You can see, we'll try to zoom in here. Earlier, there were doctors and nurses lined up outside the emergency department, getting ready to receive these patients. We don't know where these ambulances are coming from. We're just told they're from the area, and they should be arriving shortly. And we don't know the types of injuries of people that are coming in by ambulance. All we know is that they are ready to receive patients here in the emergency department. If you can see, there is some clinical staff lining up here getting ready to receive those patients. This is the level 2 trauma center for the area. So keep in mind, Memorial is closed. That emergency department is closed. And so if you're needing emergency assistance, this hospital here on Shoreline or Spawn South are the 2 hospitals that have emergency departments ready. Of course, this is the Trauma 2 Center. So they are going to be taking the more critical patients from outlying areas that need care here at the hospital. If we could pan over here, I can show you this hospital is under construction. There's a $330 million project right now to build out a level 2 trauma center. As you can tell, this is where the tower is being built right now. There are these large cranes here in the sky. These weathered the storm. They were set up overnight, and you can see these large cables that are attached to the cranes. On this one right here, it looks like there are 4 large cables, and what they did is they tethered them down, and then they loosened the cranes so they could kind of fluctuate with the wind, we're told from a KRIS-TV spokesman, and that's just what they're designed to do. So these stayed up. It looks like the construction site is still intact. If you can, I'm not sure if you're picking up any of that sound in the background, but this area of the city is out of power. However, the hospital is on backup generators right now, and you can hear the 2 coolant towers over there are getting, they're really noisy. You can hear that in the background. So if you're hearing a humming noise, that's what you're hearing here in the background. And now the hospital, I want to read a statement here in a minute from the hospital, because we're told that they're not accepting visitors at this time. They're in emergency preparedness readiness state to receive those critically injured patients and anyone who needs emergency assistance, but they are not currently accepting visitors. So if you're wanting to visit somebody in the hospital, you're going to have to be patient with them on that. And I'm going to try to pull up here some information on what a statement we got earlier from KRIS-TV. So this is from KRIS-TV, and they said KRIS-TV weather, Hurricane Harvey, and their associates here, the staff, performed at the highest level, continuing to provide quality care to patients under difficult conditions. Some of our hospitals are operating with generators, and because of the limited resources, KRIS-TV and the KRIS Health community is asking that the community delay visiting these hospitals to see their loved ones until it returns to its standard operating procedure. Now, we're told that the hospital has enough power to last through this storm. There is a concern, of course, on whether, Harvey could circle back here, there, on, of course, ready to deal with that and have enough power to get through the duration, we're told, with these generators. And if we could get another shot of the hospital here, you can see that there are, outside the emergency department, there are folks in scrubs. Those are the first line of receivers here for any injured patients who are coming in by ambulance. Again, from area hospitals, we're told, from area all over the coastal bend, they're going to be receiving injured patients by ambulance to this facility here. And we've got hospital team staff up here ready to receive those patients and provide care at this time. So we don't see any action right now in terms of ambulances showing up. It looks like a supply truck is out front for them to have medical supplies on hand if needed. And we're just going to continue to keep you updated once those ambulances do arrive, and once we have more information. We don't really have any information beyond that. We're just told at this point that they are going to be receiving patients from these outlying communities. Like I said, this is the Trauma 2 Center, so if you're critically injured, this is where you're going to come for medical assistance, emergency attention. And like I said, we'll keep you posted as we get more information on this and once the ambulances start coming in. Back to you.
Okay, Jessica, thank you. Apparently, KRIS-TV is going to be the epicenter for the level 2 trauma. This is the first now we are hearing of injuries, although we did speak with Officer Travis Pace earlier this morning. He did indicate to our Jessica Savage that he had heard of some injuries, and we don't want to take it any further than that, but he had heard there were some. Now we're talking about the outlying areas. This is where everybody is going to come, from those hospitals to KRIS-TV. And Jessica, we will check back with her, because this is the part of the story we don't look forward to reporting, and that is the part where those people who may have been injured from this storm. Rick, are you ready to tell us a little bit about Port Aransas? We have Rick Spruill here. You went out earlier and took some photos of, initially of Oso Pier that you brought back to us, and then Alan Harwell went and got some video and talked about that. Now, you've spoken, got some information from Port Aransas officials?
Yes, I was just on the phone just moments ago with the Port Aransas mayor. He tells me that any reports of deaths there are not confirmed right now, okay? I just want to make that very clear to everybody out there that we are not confirmed on any deaths. Now, I just wanted to spend about a minute on the phone with him just a few minutes ago, so let's take a listen.
We're in the process of doing search and rescue. There are no confirmed deaths at this time in the city of Port Aransas. We are discouraging them from returning to the city because we're in the process right now. We're just now getting our police department and fire department personnel and heavy equipment down the highway.
Okay, and then here's just some fresh video. We'll go back to the mayor here in a second, but I went up to the top of Hurricane Alley, the Cat 5, just to show what it looks like from up there. Waterburger Field, there's minimal damage, and then there's some, try to get a little bird's eye view of what it looks like at the port. I did the shooting on this. I did the photography. So
I was going to ask.
Give you a class.
Did the best I could there. But one thing that I noted is I got some flaring. It looks like most of the refineries, or a good number of them, are flaring product right now. I don't know if that's an indication that the port remains closed, but things look very normal. The absence of devastation here in Corpus Christi is in very stark contrast to what I know we're starting to bring in. I know we're having reporters coming back in from the field. I think that John Rapolo is about to bring us a package from Aransas Pass, where there was a lot of devastation.
And we want to make it very clear, we have not reported injuries, we have not reported any deaths. Yes. We have reported, however, from Jessica Savage from KRIS' Spawn Shoreline, that they are prepared. They're a level 2 trauma center, and we understand they are preparing for people to come in. We don't know that means they're coming or on their way. That's going to be the location where anybody with any sort of injuries, they're going to be taken there. When we have confirmation of anything like that, we will pass it along to you. Everybody hears and sees reports, Facebook and other places. We're not going to do any of that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's important. We don't want to put information out there that is inaccurate, especially when you're dealing with people's lives.
That's absolutely right. I want to stress, and the Port A Mayor, Charles Boujon, wants to stress that any deaths are not confirmed in Port Aransas. The back end of that soundbite earlier, I just kind of spliced them together. He's telling people, don't come back yet. We're not ready yet. The ferry service is still not back on, so there's no ferry to Port A. He's saying everybody just stay patient and let them do what they need to do right now to assess the damage and get everything back in order.
And that's the way it is in all these mandatory evacuation communities. They have to get out and assess the damage first before they let the community in, and so they're asking the community to stay away. It's just not safe. It's just not the right time. Well, the time will come.
It's important to note that, as John was saying earlier, even the first responders weren't able to do their job and respond. So I don't think that we could say it enough that patience is key here, because even they weren't able to go out and assess damages to check on people because they're trying to get back up and going themselves.
We appreciate the mayor taking it. He was super busy. We really appreciate him taking that time to confirm that with us.
Can you share anything else you may have seen? You've been out since this morning. I know you went out to Oso Pier. We've shown some pictures and some video of that. You've been up and down Ocean Drive. You mentioned that we've been sort of spared the kind of damage that we saw coming out of Aransas Pass.
I think that that's a shot of the Oso Pier. It was rickety to begin with. I was just fishing there though a month ago, so it's really hard to see that it's gone. But as I see the video coming in from these other areas, Rockport, Aransas Pass, Portland, Port Aransas, I think this is a shot out of Aransas Pass. That's someone's home, and now it's gone. And so while we are dealing with the inconvenience here in Corpus Christi of no power, certainly a lot of people have damage to their property, their businesses. I don't think it's anything compared to what we're going to start seeing as these reporters are coming back in from the field with their material.
Well, there was a triple threat that they were worried about. They were worried about the wind damage, the storm damage, and storm surge. And I think the storm surge, at least in this area, we were able to avoid a lot of damage from there. But obviously the wind damage, which blew away the Oso Pier, is now confirmed that that's exactly what destroyed the rest of the rickety pier. And so we'll get more reports of damage in and around the area, where our reporters are everywhere.
Fanning out.
Anything that you can do to help us report some pictures and videos from your area, your neighborhood, be safe, send them in. We'll be happy to share them.
Absolutely,
Rick,
guys.
thanks so much. Appreciate it. Okay.
See you guys later.
All right, now we want to bring in Andy Lascano, KZTV news anchor, and we're simulcasting this coverage for you on both KZTV and KRIS. And also on our streaming live on our website. Andy, I don't know if you got an ounce of sleep or a moment of sleep. You've been up all night. You were literally in the middle of the storm in the Rockport, Fulton area. Tell us what the experience was like.
I was here in 80, not working here, but for another station. We came down here to do Hurricane Allen.
Okay.
I have some memories of that. I'll never forget this. Right at about the time that it hit, some of our viewers had told us, "Hey, come on over to the house, dry off, get a meal, a good night's rest, then come on up."
Okay.
Well, as we're in the house, we hear stuff start hitting the house. We look outside, tree branches have come down on our van, and then some other stuff from their house is flying around. So photographer Dennis Kingsbury goes out, gets into the van to make sure that we can at least get out. Okay.
Right.
Well, we come to find out that one of the tree limbs had hit the van, almost shattered the window, okay, and there's damage on the van. Anyway, so I go out there, get in the van with him, and we pull out of the driveway because we figure here comes the storm, so let's be ready.
Absolutely.
We're sitting in the van out the middle of the street, okay? The van's going like this, okay? We see more branches being, are flying onto the street. We see the water level in the street start getting up. We're thinking, this is it. Everything calms down. We start driving through the Rockport area at night trying to get, video of these different things, overturned trailers, the power lines down. Dennis was driving. Like I think that guy has quick reflexes and great eyes because he avoided several power lines that were down across the streets.
Wow.
RV trailers turned over. Over at the high school, we saw a couple that appeared to us like air conditioning units from the roof that were on the ground. You can roll the tape anytime we want to. That was last night. And then this morning now, because we slept in our van.
Okay.
Luckily, we were parked between two other vehicles. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened. Okay, so this is on right down Main Street there on 35 there in Rockport. And this is what we saw. A lot of this stuff we saw last night when we were driving around, but it was very difficult to get around. Okay, so we talked to the sheriff, Billy Mills. We talked to the county judge, Bert Mills. We talked to the mayor of Fulton, Jimmy Kendrick, and they were saying, we just now, as of about 8:30 this morning, were able to start making some communication, get our crews out to the different areas in Rockport and Fulton just to see how bad it is. Problem is, people can't call in to tell them, hey, we're over here, we're stranded, we have no way to get out because there's no phone communication over there.
Yep.
But this is just some of what we saw this morning, say like about 10 o'clock this morning. With the rain down, you see some of the roof here from this woman's house down. These were in the neighborhoods near
mobile home park here.
Yeah, there's a mobile home park there. These were some of the areas near the heart of town, near the police department, near the sheriff's department. We all know that they're all located in one building. But yeah, this is the aftermath. Last night, as I say, we're driving through these same areas and we're going, man, it looks pretty bad. What's it going to look like in the morning? Daylight comes, we get back out on the road, and this is what we find. Oh, this is a good shot here. See this? All the windows shattered. At the Rockport Police Department and at the Aransas Pass Sheriff's Department, a majority of their vehicles just sitting in the lot ready to go out. The force of the wind and the debris shattered all the windows. I think we're going to see Sheriff Billy Mills' truck that he's only had for like 2 months. All the windows in that thing are shattered, blown out. They had no communication. Their big antenna outside was blown down. There's our vehicle, and you can see where the
we got hit.
Yeah, you can see there. Okay, so now here are all the emergency crews going through town a little while ago, just to get an assessment of how bad the damage is and where is the majority of the damage.
It seems like everything was affected. I mean, I don't know if any of these businesses were. They avoided any damage at all.
They didn't have a chance. They didn't have a chance. Yeah, I mean, when this thing hit, I mean, trust me when I tell you.
No one was spared.
It was kind of scary. And we talked to some folks. We're going to hear from them in just a little while. Mm-hmm. And I asked them, were you scared? And some of them said, yeah. And others, you know what others said? You know what? I was a fool. I underestimated what this would do.
Don't we hear that a lot?
Yeah. In fact, one guy said he was staying in a trailer park. And trees collapsed on his trailer. I said, what were you doing in here? I underestimated it. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. And, a lot of these guys are going to have to completely rebuild. There was a business there that we showed. It's I guess kind of like a landscaping place. They've been there, I think the lady said 24 years. I think it's called More something. I can't remember the name. She said, we've been here 24 years. We probably can't ever reopen. It's, it's a smaller business, mom and pop business, and to, go through something like this is devastating for them. But the thing is, and I keep on going back to this quote. They're in front of that business right now, but I keep going back to this quote that Nueces County Judge Lloyd Neal said. What's the biggest asset any of us have right now is patience.
True.
Because as your power goes out or whatever happened to you, you're going to call right away trying to get your power restored. Well, guess what? You're not the only one. It's going to take 3 to 7 days, depending on where you're at, to get your power restored. But yeah, this is the business we're talking about. Those folks have been there. They were telling us for about 24 years, and they doubt they can reopen. That's on Market Street, right off of 35 there in Rockport. So we started out yesterday at about 2 or 3 o'clock. We were in Fulton. and you could kind of tell, boy, this is going to be serious business here. And then we did those live reports there. Then when we showed you the first power line down, I think we were still in Fulton or Rockport for that one, and so we started in Fulton, made our way to Rockport. As we were driving back today, all along 35, you can see power lines either completely down or leaning.
We want to run, and you'll be able to tell us who this is. We have a clip loaded up here, so let's run that, then you can tell us who it is we're talking to after.
Anything salvageable?
No, but it was really scary.
Were you in it last night?
Yeah, I was.
By yourself? Did you have other family?
And I saw this one. It just blew away. And this one was popping willies. And I guess that tree fell over, and that's what kept it from rolling over.
That one and this one here, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were in this last night by yourself?
Yeah, I really underestimated the. I was at Ike, and it didn't rain, and it must have been 200 miles an hour. It came roaring through, and all the fences were down. But this one I saw, my window, my AC blew out. I was holding on to the window so I could look, and I saw this just poof, and I didn't realize the tree fell down until I came out.
Wow.
It was a foolish thing to do.
Is this habitable?
No.
So what do you do now?
Friends and family, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the trailers did survive, and we weren't using it, so we might be using it.
That's pretty dramatic there, Andy.
Yeah.
That man is lucky to be alive.
Darren McSnow, I believe that gentleman's name is. Yeah, he was there, and much like this. I mean, a mobile home or a trailer overturned. We saw that a lot. What really caught our attention was when we were driving around town last night at about 10:30 at night. When the eye had passed and it was kind of calm, we thought, oh, okay, this is good. And no sooner we got done taking our video, which we'll show later today, the winds picked up. The rain picked up. The wind, to me, was the scariest part, because the wind, it's no respecter of person. Neither is water, but the wind, to be in there and you feel your vehicle shaking.
We were really, actually, I got to be honest with you. I saw your last Facebook. We ran your Facebook video clip, and I was really worried that you were literally in harm's way. I mean, we were worried that Andy.
We were talking about you.
Hope
you've
he's
known
okay.
me for 40 years, so
I have
a pretty good ability to bounce back from stuff like this. But as I said, I was here in '80 for Hurricane Allen. What I do remember about it, there was a lot of rain and there was flooded streets, but we were only here for just a very little time. This I'll never forget. The way Rockport looks today, as we were there last night and today before we started heading back this way, I'll never forget that.
And this is just, look, you look at these pictures here, this is what's amazing. You would think that these size SUVs are just sitting there in the parking lot, and if anybody had been sitting in any one of these, a shattered piece of glass could have just cut them, and they could be, just the fact that they're sitting there and they are destroyed is that's amazing. That's tremendous.
In front of the what do they call it? The public safety department there. I'm sure you've been out there. They have those 3 big flagpoles, the big poles.
Yes.
Well, 2 of them are on the ground, and then across the street they have their big antenna for all their communications wiped out.
So we're talking this kind of community this was, again, we haven't heard from Port Aransas yet. I know this is probably this area is probably got worse damage, but this is the worst damage we have seen, although I will say that John Rapolo brought back some video of Aransas Pass. It was pretty bad. But this is as bad as it gets. I just hope that there are people who got out of harm's way and actually heeded the advice and didn't stay and write it out like some of the other people. Let's run another sound clip, Andy, and tell us a little bit more about who this person is.
Sure. Had you evacuated?
No.
You were in the house last night.
Right.
How bad? I mean, were you scared?
Yeah, I mean, for I guess about 9 o'clock is when it got really bad. The wind was really bad about 9. Well, I guess a little earlier than that, from about 7 to about 9:30, and then about 9:30 it slowed down. I guess that must have been the eye. Got quiet, really calm, and then I was hoping that was going to be it, but that kept going. I guess it must have been about a couple hours later, about 11:30, it started up again, and it stayed that way until I woke up this morning. The wind was as bad as I anticipated, but not the rain. I figured it was going to still keep coming, but I don't know. Hopefully, maybe this is it with the rain. Hopefully, I think we've had enough damage for now.
Yeah, Fernando Lopez there, who lives right off of Market Street there in his home. We saw him walking around his property, so we thought, well, let's, you're looking for as many people as you can to tell you their story, what they went through and what they think, their future is at their homes or their whatever their residence is.
It's just amazing that people in that area decided to ride out the storm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
especially
knowing
when the meteorologists were saying it's category 2, 3, no, now it's 4.
Absolutely.
And they decided to stay here. But I mean, we all know of people that have said, oh, it's not going to be that bad, and I'll be okay here. Some of the people that had boarded up their homes told us, oh yeah, the boards flew off. Boards were blown off.
I've heard that other areas as well. Andy, you bring back some just unbelievable pictures this morning, and I know we have Juan Acuna out here with us now. And Juan, this is Rockport, and I know that you guys had mentioned that they were right in the crosshairs. This man was sitting in the middle of the street in our vehicle last night. I saw his reports, and I was literally scared for him.
I was too, because especially, Harvey hadn't made landfall yet at that point. And we knew that the winds were going 120, then all of a sudden they were climbing to 130, 140, 150, and almost going as high as 160 miles an hour. So when Chief Meteorologist Dale Nelson and I were sitting there, we all talked about it. Andy needs to move. There's one thing to get the stories, and there's one thing to get the footage. But at some point,
safety.
Yeah, the safety jumps at the top of that list.
Yeah.
And all the forecast models that we were looking at, there was several of them, or I should say there were several of them that kept it as a category 3, but there was 1 or 2 that took it up to that Cat 4 status. And looking at it as a meteorologist, you kind of look at those as outliers. Hopefully that doesn't come true, but the realm of possibility is there. And sure enough, I mean, it absolutely happened. And when we saw those winds jump up to Cat 4 status, it was incredible.
What was the scariest where you thought, I know you mentioned earlier that you were sitting out in front of the house in the van, and this is it.
Yeah.
Was that the scariest moment for you last night, or was there a moment where you thought that we might get blown away, this is it?
Well, when we did our first few live reports from Fulton Beach, that was pretty scary. But sitting in a vehicle, the wind, the rain, and then a gust of rain will come toward your windshield. You can't see what's behind it. So from time to time, I would just throw a towel over my face and say, all right, well, if it hits me, maybe that'll help. But, I'm worried that, what's coming through the windshield, what's coming through my window, what's coming through Dennis's window. Because you're sitting there and you're hearing, boom, boom.
What's flying through the air at 140, 150 miles an hour.
And then when you can finally see through the windshield, you see the water going like that. So we're thinking, are we even going to get out of here?
Well, I got to tell you, Andy, we are so glad that you and Dennis are safe, and that what you brought back is images that we will never forget. I know you went through it. You survived Hurricane Henry,
Harvey.
And you were Harvey, and you were right in the middle of it.
Right. T-shirts coming soon.
Exactly.
Hurricane
Absolutely.
Harvey. But please, much credit to, as I say, Dennis Kingsbury, because all of these pictures and the interviews that we did, he made it work. Our live reports yesterday, he made it work in the rain. Because I was thinking, how are we going to get out of here? We can't. There's too much rain. There's no signal. He made it work. So.
Well, you guys did a great team effort, and we appreciate it very much.
Good.
And we hope that people in Rockport are okay, and those people who wrote it out, thank goodness they're okay.
Absolutely.
Because that's what it's all about. Saving lives, property can be replaced.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Andy, thanks so much.
All right. Good to see you all.
Great job, my
Andy,
friend.
welcome back.
Thank you.
We're happy
Good
to
see
have
you all.
Okay, and now we've also got Anieli Ruiz, who's been in Portland over the last 24 hours. Let's try and go out to Anieli with the latest on what's going on out there.
Chocolate.
Hey guys, I'm in Gregory, and as you can see, I wanted to show you guys the damage out here. It is crazy just to see this silo just mangled up and pulled off the ground. Now this is one of 3 others seem to have lost part of the roof, but this one was completely mangled on the ground. You can see how it was definitely lifted and then put over there just in pieces. It is crazy. We've also been seeing a lot of downed trees falling into houses, some flooding out here also. We've seen some roof damages. So far, residents have told us that everybody's okay, no serious injuries. But like I said, we town, and this was definitely impressive. This is one of the worst things we've probably seen so far today. But of course, we're continuing to drive through, see what other damages we see, and obviously make sure everybody's okay. But of course, we'll bring you guys the latest updates here. KRIS, we'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, so Aniele has made her way from Portland to Gregory, where you can see now the rain. Earlier there wasn't raining, and now she's dealing with the rain. And
yes, we've got a reporter, Nick Valencia, who's actually been in Rockport as well. He's with CNN, and he's got the latest from there as well.
I'm standing on top of one of the walls of what was a local eatery, one of the many buildings that we've seen here as we've surveyed the damage that has just been completely leveled by Hurricane Harvey. Just beyond this eatery, there's another art and jewelry store also just flattened. You could see the roof of that had just collapsed on top of the building. As we've been speaking to local residents here, a lot of them, as you mentioned, an estimated 60% of them decided to stay. A part of that we've heard from local residents, it's a myriad of reasons. One of them, they say that it's a tight-knit community, and some of these residents wanted to stick around. One specifically that we spoke to is a youth pastor who says he felt that people might need him after this tragedy hit, so he decided to stay in order to help out his neighbors. Other people, in the past, the hurricanes have been predicted to hit here in Rockport, but have missed the area entirely. So the sheriff was issuing dire warnings, as well as the local mayor issuing very ominous warnings, telling local residents to write their names on their forearms, as well as their social security number. I'm joined by one of those residents. You actually took this seriously. John Morgan, you thought this was going to be, show the viewers here, you actually wrote your name on your arm here.
The newer homes that were built in the area, I'm going to say since like 1990, 85 and forward, a lot of those homes are still standing. But there was a lot of structures here that have been here being poured on rain and salt water for the past 45 years. So naturally, you know, the beams get a little rotted out, things like that, a lot of dry rot.
Made them vulnerable to something like this.
Exactly. So when the storm came in and those high winds just came up and hit like it did when the eye hit the city, you know, that just leveled all those buildings.
And that was Nick Valencia reporting from Rockport, CNN reporter. Once again, that tight-knit community, many of them sticking together, riding out the storm, some of whom felt like, you know what, we've dodged a bullet before and it missed us, but this one didn't. And
this one came straight on.
And we want to send it live to Aniele Ruiz, who is standing by. We've had her live throughout the last 24 hours. We've had her in Portland. So let's go ahead and check in with her. Aniele?
Hey guys, I'm in Portland with the mayor, and where we have some announcement for a lot of residents who live in Portland and those who are thinking of coming back, sir. I know there are some issues with the water from the San Patricio Water Authority?
Water District.
Okay, so what's going on, sir?
Okay, effective immediately, we're asking all the citizens that are here residing in Portland now to restrict their use to water, just to medical and cooking. And when we go to the cooking, we want them to hear by the boil order that's already in effect, okay? Which means no showering, no laundry, washing clothes, no doing stuff, cleaning and whatnot. We don't want them to be doing that.
And so we'll get the latest right now. This is from the National Hurricane Center. The bulk of the energy is up towards the north, though, around Schulenburg, north of the Victoria Crossroads at this point. But the winds are sustained at 70 miles an hour, gusting as high as 90. But there's the critical component right there, the north-northwesterly movement only at 2 miles an hour. So we can almost basically call it stationary at this point. And eventually it's going to start to move back to the south or maybe southwest over the next several hours. And I'm looking out the window right now. We are getting a pretty heavy downpour here in the downtown area of Corpus Christi at this point. Excuse me. So as we go zoom in a little bit closer here, the tropical tracker, this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. And again, look at that. It just doesn't take it anywhere. It moves off to the east a little bit, then it curves back around. It doesn't know where to go at this point. It's basically sandwiched between two high pressure systems, which I'll show you a little bit later. And so it's going to stay on top of us and just continue to deliver rainfall and more rainfall for us here. So we see an additional 5 to 10 inches of rain for our northern counties. And we're talking about heavier amounts where Harvey's actually located at this point, which is north of Euphoria, north of B County at this point, and turning into a remnant low by early Monday morning with 35-mile-an-hour sustained winds in the region. So we're taking a look at the looping radar right now. As I just told you, I'm looking out the window and it's raining pretty good out there. We have this one little band that's moving through downtown Corpus Christi, some less moderate rainfall for us here in Jim Wells County, pushing up around LaSalle, McMullen into Live Oak, B County as well. Duval County, you're finally starting to get some rain extending all the way down into Kingsville, just north of Rivera and just north of Fremont. Fremont, you might start to get a little bit of sprinkles, but Alice, Sandia, all those areas around Lagardo into Lake Corpus Christi are starting to see some rainfall at this point as well. But the heaviest activity is around the center of circulation just to the northeast of Karnes City at this point. And that's where they're seeing those maximum sustained winds closer to 74 miles an hour. But now that Harvey is now a tropical storm, we're looking at those sustained winds to be about 73 miles per hour at this point. The heaviest of the rainfall, as we mentioned earlier, was right around Bayside, Aransas Pass, Port Aransas, where about 10 inches of rain fell there, over 10.5 inches in Aransas Pass, and just south of Bayside, over 10 inches of rain. But Portland, near Ingleside by the Bay, we're talking about 4.5 to about 5 inches of rain as well, over 9 inches of rain out in Bayside, and Rockport showing a rainfall, or to say Doppler radar estimate of about 7.5 inches of rain fell into the overnight hours. So hour by hour for the next 12 hours here at home, we're talking about on and off rainfall for us here. There'll be pockets of light rain, there's going to be pockets of heavy rain as well, mixed into that with those sustained winds above 25 miles an hour, gusting as high as 45, and then extending all the way down into the early morning hours with temperatures in the 70s, and those winds still going sustained at about 30 miles an hour.
No, but it was really scary.
Were you in it last night?
Yeah, I was.
By yourself? Did you have other family?
And I saw this one. It just blew away. And this one was popping willies. And I guess that tree fell over, and that's what kept it from rolling over.
That one and this one here, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were in this last night by yourself?
Yeah, I really underestimated the. I was at Ike and it didn't rain, and it must have been 200 miles an hour. It came roaring through, and all the fences were down. But this one I saw, my window, my AC blew out. I was holding on to the window so I could look, and I saw this just poof, and I didn't realize the tree fell down until I came out.
Wow.
It was a foolish thing to do.
Is this habitable?
No.
So what do you do now?
Friends and family, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the trailers did survive, and we weren't using it, so we might be using it.
Had you evacuated?
No.
You were in the house last night?
Right.
How bad, were you scared?
Yeah, for I guess about 9 o'clock is when it got really bad. The wind was really bad about 9. Well, I guess a little earlier than that, from about 7 to about 9:30, and then about 9:30 it slowed down. I guess that must have been the eye. Mm-hmm. Got quiet, really calm, and then I was hoping that was going to be it, but that kept going. I guess must have been about a couple hours later, about 11:30, it started up again, and it stayed that way until I woke up this morning. The wind was as bad as I anticipated, but not the rain. I figured it was going to still keep coming, but I don't know. Hopefully, maybe this is it with the rain. Hopefully, I think we've had enough damage for now.
third of our towers in the road. We lost radios, we lost the internet, we lost local phone service.
And no idea when that's going to be
911 went down for a while. No, sir, we don't right now. We just like they were looking for y'all. You know, we want everybody to know that the first responders here are alive and healthy. We're going to make an assessment of the needs of the people in the county that are in houses that we got calls all night about roofs falling and walls coming down. We're going to back up through that, systematically start going through the houses, checking them out that are damaged to make sure we don't find people there that are in need of medical assistance, because EMS is going to have trouble navigating a lot of these roads, so we may bring them back in here if we can, but we've got to establish communications is going to be a priority right now.
Coastal Palm here Fire Department is bringing out their command center. It's got a tower on it. Maybe got a repeater. It may help us reach a little bit farther, but like I said, we're just going to be short on communication.
I thought it was interesting, all the damage assessment you were given when you walked in there. Can you go over that again for us, what you saw?
Well, right now, what we've seen is a lot of homes that have been knocked down, trailers, manufactured type homes. A lot of buildings have lost their roofs. Just like you go around the corner up here, HEB's lost a corner of its building. We've got Don't Take Care. It's an empty building down, and it's gone the old HEB. The new HEB lost the front of it a little bit, it looks like. There's some businesses in Fulton that are gone, completely gone. Fruit stands completely gone.
The apartment complex at 1600 South Church is destroyed.
Wow. And here we have some video from Aransas Pass sent to us by KRIS-TV anchor John Rapolo, who spent the night there in Aransas Pass. And you could look at all that damage. You can't even make out what some of this stuff is, but obviously that building is sort of like has become like an island, just surrounded by water there in Aransas Pass. You can see those palm trees just tipped over, and it looks like it was over that power line. And you also have boats.
Yeah, the marina, there was a couple of shrimp boats turned upside down. The first image you saw here was actually a house that was, you could see a stove, you could see maybe an air conditioner, and the rest of the house was gone.
Blown away.
Yeah, completely.
Unbelievable. But, you know, not surprising. I mean, we're there, we were looking at at winds anywhere between, 60, easily sustained at 60, but going in excess of 100 miles an hour wind gusts. I mean, yeah, that's what it takes right there for that to happen.
Off the ground,
yeah, absolutely.
But you see something. Well, you saw that brick home there in the distance, and it looked okay. But you have so many homes here that are manufactured homes, or homes that aren't even on concrete slab, which is just incredible. That homes that have been here for decades and decades,
and survived some other storms previously.
And that was my fear, that people sort of felt comfortable in that way, like, we've been here, we're lifers, our home's going to be fine. But I remember that moment, the feeling around this newsroom changed as soon as it was bumped up to a Category 4.
Yeah.
Right.
When we learned that, because that's something that we weren't expecting.
And I think
haven't experienced
exactly.
In this area.
And Dale did a good job of mentioning this yesterday. These storms have personality. Each one is different. Yeah. Yes, they're the same structure. Yes, I mean, some of them will have similar winds, but you can have a very large storm where hurricane winds will extend out to 100, 200 miles out of the center of circulation. We got lucky on this one. Yes, it was a Category 4, but we were lucky in the fact that it only had a very small core of major hurricane force winds over 111 miles an hour. So, but just the fact that we had to deal with something like that, it's been years and years and years since Corpus saw anything like that.
Those two gentlemen were talking about, they were being asked about the damage, and they just said, we don't know. I mean, straight up. I mean, if you have down power lines, if you have signs everywhere, if you have trees blocking homes, there is no way to tell what the damage is. So they can't survey it. But I do have one more thing to add, that if you weren't able to listen or understand what he was saying, the library in Rockport, the high school, and 2 gymnasiums are ruined because of Harvey.
They also said they don't want anybody coming into the Rockport Fulton area. While we're looking at drone video from the island here that we have gotten from this gentleman, Max
Bocanegra.
Yeah, we appreciate that. But we did want to pass this information along from the Rockport news conference that there is one fatality. It had to do with a fire overnight. That person was discovered this morning. So we have the storm's first fatality recorded.
Very unfortunate. That's the news we don't want to hear.
And here we have it. Is that the vehicle that we saw
yesterday?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we saw that picture
by the causeway,
yesterday.
right?
Actually, exactly 24 hours ago. We saw that vehicle, and it's
still in the
hanging
water.
out.
Still sitting there. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. Still a couple of inches that were covering the tire.
It's not underwater. That's one thing.
That's
about
true.
what it looked like at the time yesterday. This video.
Well, look at the ditch. There's not a whole lot of water out there in the ditch. I saw in that top part. So that was certainly good news.
Okay, and you see those homes there that look intact.
Yeah.
No roof damage.
Palm trees look pretty good there. That's good. There was some earlier along Ocean Drive that were down that we saw.
Yeah, I would imagine these kind of videos do help in assessing damage.
Oh, absolutely.
Streets largely clear, though. You can see. I mean, there are some cars, obviously, going around as people try to. Maybe they've left their shelters or left their friends' homes, and they're trying to get to their homes and seeing what they have to
deal with.
Come home to. But it is a little bit surprising. I would expect more people to be here at this time, but they're probably trying to make their way up here from the valley or down
out west. Hopefully they went to Laredo,
Austin, or San Antonio.
And they're getting rain now, so I'd imagine if they went up to San Antonio, Austin, they're probably a little bit more complacent and they're staying in place right now.
Yeah, right.
There you have. There's some tiles that just came flying down on top of my head.
And that's 20 feet from where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, it's not far, not far at all.
It's just on the other side of where we're sitting.
No one's immune from the damage,
That's on the second floor of the back part of our building.
But go figure. Everyone was doing it all day long, and then Juan goes out there to take a quick look, and boom.
And our general manager, Greg McAllister, was very good about taking care of us and getting us out of harm's way and getting things mended as best we could under the circumstances. But, we're like anybody else. We have to take cover like anybody else, and things happen. But honestly, this building is sturdy, and we were set. The main thing is, we were all.
You mentioned just a minor bruise. This is a very sturdy building, and I wasn't concerned one bit that this is going to be hurt.
I live right across from Shoreline, Christmas Pond Shoreline, and we had lost the power, and I had a couple of pets up in my 10th floor.
Were they scared?
Unit.
I can imagine.
Well, first I got there, and you need to punch a code to get in. And of course, there's no power or something. And will I be able to get in? I had a little flashlight that I had brought with me, thinking I might need it later in the night with no power. And I saw one of the guards, and they let me in. And then the elevators, of course, they're supposed to have backup generators, but the elevators weren't working. So I went up 10 flights of stairs and made my way up there, but they were scared.
In that neighborhood, a tree fell on top of a power line, which cut off power to the entire area. A nearby family rode out the storm, just hoping for the best.
Yes, we stayed and we rode it out. We lost power, but we had all the necessities that we needed. And the storm came in, I guess, probably about 10:30 or 10:45. And we got a lot of wind. Of course, we got some trees down and some limbs, but we did okay.
Now, they're currently trying to get a hold of some family that they have in Portland. They're just hoping that everybody there is safe. As you know, Portland was in a mandatory evacuation zone. Also, if you see down power lines over the road, please don't drive over them. Just turn around, find an alternate route, because you never know if those power lines are live.
We have our Anieli Ruiz. Have you slept at all?
Reporter.
Guys, I had 1 hour of sleep, and let me tell you, y'all are going to think this is really crazy. I slept in jail. I slept the Portland
Spent
Police
the night
Department.
in jail, right?
Honestly, those guys were awesome. A big shout out to everybody. They took us in, fed us, they sheltered us, and obviously we stayed in touch with them. They were the ones who were in the loop. The closest town to the areas who had no communication whatsoever. So we were there throughout the entire night. They were listening to the scanners. It's hard to sleep when there's a storm going on, when there's people's lives at risk. Like I said, the safest part of the entire police department was the jail, and so they said, "Hey, Anieli."
Well, at least now you know what it's like.
Yeah, yes. They were great, and like I said, but a lot of damage out there. Definitely, people are going to have a hard time cleaning up. But it's good to know that, nobody was seriously injured. They did rescue a woman from a home out in Portland who was trapped. Her roof had collapsed, and luckily she wasn't severely injured. They rescued her just in time. So really good, to hear these stories that people, were able to make it. But like I said, damages to a lot of the homes out there. even though they're cosmetics, luckily nobody was injured. We saw a lot of trailer homes, and when I saw people coming out of these trailer homes, I'm thinking to myself, with those winds and to see their trailer homes destroyed.
Those are their homes.
Just, yeah, it's just crazy. Very, very scary. Like I said, luckily I was in a safe place, but these people...
It got tough for you last night because we have been hearing from Aniele throughout our coverage, and you had to basically get to the point where you could no longer even be outside yourself. You came in with them and you were doing some coverage inside. The hardest part has to be when you know that there's an opportunity perhaps to help somebody or do something, but you can't go out because it's too dangerous.
Correct,
right?
correct. And I think that's a call that's always hard for first responders, you know, to make, because you want to be out there helping people. I will say this, there was a lady who came into the police department while we were there with her 4 kids. She's banging on the doors and she's asking, I need a shelter. I've been driving all over town. She was looking for a shelter. She couldn't get the winds was so strong, she couldn't get her kids out of the car. So police officers had to go. They doubled up and picked up the kids because the winds were shaking. They were shocking the officers. So luckily, they were able to shelter this woman, but just different.
That's them.
And that's them.
Right, those are the
you
pictures.
can see the woman; she's crying, and imagine these big officers trying to carry these kids because they can't. The officers can't even stand in the wind. So very dangerous situation. But so glad that they made it to safety.
Survival
and you see
story.
that baby there, still in the car seat.
That's how dangerous it was. They were scared to take him out of the car seat, and he was gonna.
And what were the children? Like, obviously, children. It's hard, they're so little, they don't understand what's going on. Did you get a sense of how they felt when they were brought into the police station?
They were actually brought. She didn't bring them in because she couldn't. The wind was so strong, she couldn't bring them in. But the officers who did, they actually didn't bring them into the police station. They brought them to the community center, which is right next to the police station, and. The children were so grateful, and the officers told me, they kept saying, yes sir, no sir, I'm scared, am I okay, am I gonna be okay, is my mommy okay? You know, they were concerned themselves.
You can imagine, you know, God bless her, that she knocked on the right door at the right time in the height of a storm.
And that they heard her too.
Yes.
Because that's one thing that you always worry about, if someone's banging on your door, but you can't hear anything because of the winds.
Another story of survival. You know, we've got the 2 stories out of Rockport of the 2 people who rode out the storm, and one was obviously lucky to be alive. The other was just kind of slept through part of it. But now we hear this story, and I'm sure there are many more stories just like that, and that we cannot wait to share with our viewers.
You were there since Thursday, right?
Well, yes, we went to talk to residents there as they were evacuating, but a lot of the residents didn't want to leave. They didn't want to leave their homes behind, but guess what? Today, when we went back and to find those residents, they all said, we will never stay for another hurricane. Yeah. They were so scared. They learned their lesson. They said they're not going to stay anymore.
We had a couple of more pictures we wanted to show. Certainly, I know you've seen your share of devastation today, especially when you got to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here.
Now, this was right next to the police department, which is crazy because we're right next to this house.
That's amazing.
And just to see the bricks completely fall from
That's
this
the frame of the house.
Yes.
We're looking through that house.
And not only that, but the garage, like the door is just bent and just mangled. It's really crazy. It's surreal when you're driving past.
That's 100% loss right there. That's what you're looking at. There's some homes that have been no damage at all, and that's because the storm never got inside of the structure.
You were saying that yesterday. That is key, right? Once the roof goes, game over.
And welcome back, Dale.
Okay.
You
Dale
did a
Nelson
tremendous
joining
job
us.
you did last night. You really helped a lot of people take caution and get out of harm's way last night. What you did saved lives, and there's absolutely no question about that. And having you here today with us right now is just a special moment for all of us because we appreciate what you do.
Well, thanks. It's part of the deal, and I enjoy what I do, and if I can help somebody out in the process, even better.
Absolutely.
And I was amazed at what Aniele did over in Portland. A lot of people over there, and the reason why she was there is because it was worse over there than it is here in Corpus Christi.
Yes.
And I don't think people realize exactly how bad, just 5 miles, 10 miles closer to the storm, how bad it gets. And that's the way it is with a hurricane, especially a small compact, strong hurricane like this was. I know you're looking at storm damage right here. And
this was in Portland.
Yeah,
right.
This is Portland.
And the
here.
Exxon station there in Portland was wiped out, and that's because as soon as the hurricane got inside, everything started to lift, and destruction to the roof and everything inside there.
If that had moved just this side of the Harbor Bridge, it would have been a completely different story. Certainly
Right.
here in Corpus Christi.
I talked this morning to some workmen that were putting windows back up that broke out in the Omni Hotel in downtown Corpus Christi. And they were saying, just as you go to the south side of town, just a few fences down, a few large tree limbs, not near as bad as over here in downtown, just from the south side over to downtown Corpus Christi.
Right, now we have some video it's an example of how strong the winds are. Reporter Chris Shadrock with KSAT News posted this video on Twitter, and it shows a really large highway sign that partially collapsed on Interstate 37 near North Padre Island Drive. Look at that.
That's why you want to stay off the roads in a situation like this.
Especially in the dark.
Absolutely. And that sign directed drivers on northbound I-37 either take North Padre Island Drive to the airport or stay on Interstate 37 toward Annabelle. But, you know, there's a couple of signs on 37 that I think came down.
Yeah, obviously not what we want people to drive through, and not just on 37, but just in general. You know, I just said this two seconds ago that, you know, when it gets dark like that, it's not just that you have to watch out for, but if there's water accumulation on the road or other things that you can't see down power lines, it gets really dicey when you're out there on that road.
And I told you, when I left here last night, I just drove a little over a mile to get home, and I was dodging things in the road. It was really an uncomfortable short drive. I'd been out earlier in the evening with our chief photographer, Mike Salazar. We're getting some videos across town and trying to show what damage we could. But at that hour last night, the winds at around midnight or 11:45, it was scary, and it was dark, and I was by myself, and I'm dodging and I'm seeing things in the road. And I actually missed my turn because the traffic light was out.
Without water, without phone access. And we do have a story that we want to show you, brought into us by KZTV anchor John Rapolo, who spent the night in Aransas Pass, and he filed this report for us.
The rattle of destruction in Aransas Pass.
We took a hard hit from this storm last night. It was a very rough night.
When Harvey finally hit late in the afternoon, so began gusts of winds of up to 130 miles per hour and steady rain. Boats overturned in the waterways, and many roads impassable. The town stripped of the basics: water, power, and phone service.
We have no power unless you have your own generator. We got no phone, no internet, no nothing. We have no communication with the real world other than one satellite phone right now is what we're using.
This used to be someone's home. There are many like this in Aransas Pass that have been completely destroyed. David Medina lives right next door.
It scared the mess out of me.
This rental truck overturned by powerful winds in a parking lot on Wheeler Ave. And the side of this business made of brick came tumbling down. The biggest concern, though, was human life. First responders could not get to calls because it was too dangerous to take out emergency vehicles.
They're responding to all the calls that we received. The priority ones, we had people in homes that had collapsed. They were trapped in the hallway that had been waiting 8, 9, 10 hours for us to get out there.
And even the Emergency Operations Center, where first responders hunkered down, felt Harvey's wrath. Part of the roof fell apart in one section. Officials say it will take weeks to restore power and utilities in this community. John Rapolo, KRIS-TV News.
John Rapolo, you know, the Texas National Guard help is on the way, right?
Absolutely.
The Texas National Guard has arrived here in the Coastal Bend.
Yeah, in fact, our convoy came down Interstate 37 from San Antonio and Austin areas.
Say anything about
We caught up with them as they were moving up Highway 181 through Portland. more than 100 vehicles, including buses and generators and gas tanks and communications equipment, all being deployed for the next several days in the areas of Rockport and of Aransas Pass. And we do know that the governor mentioned earlier that he's adding 500 people to his already now it's 1,800 troops coming down, not just in our area, but across the state of Texas and the other areas, Beaumont and those areas that are going to need assistance. So he has deployed almost 2,000 people just like that into these devastated communities that need the help. And there's more help coming because we know that we're going to be having FEMA available for these hard-hit communities that we now have. The governor mentioned the disaster declaration yesterday of 30 counties. He's added 24 more counties to that in his news conference today. And he mentions what that does is basically it triggers the intervention of FEMA. So that's great news. And Mayor Joe McComb, he knows that he can contact the governor and let him know what he needs because the governor is asking. So obviously those people are arriving at the right place at the right time.
So because of that fact, we are going to see less of an issue with flooding. There's still a potential for it, but not to the extent of it happening all in one night. But 5 to 10 inches of rain is still possible with this system between now and the next Friday night, and it's going to be spread out over time. So the looping Doppler radar here shows the showers that went through earlier this afternoon are now out in the Gulf as that one little band has moved around from the west. We have additional light showers from Refugio to Sinton, but the heavier rain is far north near the center of circulation. Also have light showers just to the west of Rockport down to Ingleside and then stretching across over to Portland and then back to the west side of Corpus Christi. You've got these light showers. So it's going to be off and on rain for about the next 5 to 6 days because of stalling process that's taking place now with Harvey. Again, you can see the center of circulation is still going on and will continue to do so, and still it's just a remnants of this system. But you can see the cold cloud tops have begun to weaken across the area, and you see less red here, so that's a diminishment in intensity factor right there, but we still have these bands working through. So the latest on Harvey, 65-mile-an-hour winds, gusts of 75, and stationary. This is the key right here, and this is why we've got more rain in the forecast. If this would have just kept moving north, but that was not expected, but if it would have moved north, then we would have seen this end, and that would be the end of it until the next tropical rains came to the area by other means. You can see the system and the forecast track from the Hurricane Center is all over the place. They're sending it back down this way on Monday. If that happens, we'll see additional rainfall initially, and then if it moves on out into the Gulf, we'll be on the dry west side of it, and it'll clear up by the end of the week. But I think this is actually going to migrate, believe it or not, back to the west towards Del Rio. The bottom line, though, is regardless of whether it goes east or whether it goes west or whether it doesn't go anywhere, the intensity is dropping off. And this is the line right here where it turns white. That's the line that we want to get to because that means it's a remnant storm and not a current storm. And the hour by hour shows off and on showers through the evening, dropping off later tonight. And temperatures in the 70s. Notice the winds under that 30-mile-an-hour criteria to start perhaps putting the power back together here. And temperatures in the 70s all the way up through 5 in the morning.